you hear me, boys?
Yeah, can hear you. All good.
Good.
Excellent.
So I'll just do a quick intro. So on this episode of the podcast, we've got Mike as well, who also works at Earache, and we've got Ronnie, the drummer from Those Damn Crows. I'm liking your setup there, Ronnie. It looks pretty.
Thank you very much, man. Been busy over the old lockdown, COVID disaster, So
Yeah, is that just in your home? Is it?
yeah, home studio. I kind of started about February. This was always kind of a music room anyway, like my home studio. But I used to have all like Iron Man stuff on the walls, all Marvel wrestling. And then the more I started chatting to Mike and kind of starting to put more of the streaming into play, I started looking up YouTubers and seeing that they're all doing like fancy lighting, and then obviously I had to up my game with the microphones, and then yeah. So I've come a long way, man.
Yeah, we're just starting out on this little podcast thing. I haven't got a microphone or anything yet. I'm just talking into the laptop audio, but I think I'm going to get one, definitely.
Oh, yeah. Man, honestly, like I've just kind of embraced it because I've always been into podcasting anyway. I absolutely love podcasts. So just slowly but surely, like even like these cool little like the arms that come across the desks and stuff, and I've just kind of upgraded everything. I mean, I've always had a fully working studio with interfaces. I've just never looked into podcasting myself. We've always talked about it in the van, myself and Shane.
Yeah.
We did have a little dabble actually down in his studio, I think a couple of years ago. But nothing but this situation, this world kind of puts you into different environments, like, do you know what I mean? So I've just started upgrading, then got myself a really cool USB camera. Now all the band have started going out and buying cameras, which is really cool. Everybody's upgrading their microphones, their stands. So it's just becoming the new normal, like, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So for people watching who don't know, Those Damn Crows have got their own podcast called Crowcast, which you're like 33 episodes into now, is it?
Yeah, this will be our, I'm not sure when this goes out, but we just done episode 33, just prepping for episode 34, which I always kind of said at the beginning. I remember talking to Mike on the phone and saying like, this will go on for ages. But in the back of my mind, I was kind of thinking, probably about, 6-7 weeks now, and we'll be back to business or whatever will happen. So it's mad to think that we're 33 weeks in.
Because the 33 weeks, that's since the start of the first lockdown back in March, isn't it? It's 33 weeks ago, I think. Yeah,
right on point. I think apart from a couple of weeks of like stressing on the phone as Michael back up, just because I didn't know how to put all the pieces together, and then slowly but surely they were unlocking, and then we were on the way, and then it was the case of like, right, okay, we've grown up in Wales. Who do we know? Who can I pull in? So myself and the boys got like, mates on board, like your Mooses from former Bullet, and now he's in Killer Lights. And then Padge was really happy to, and for Padge, it was a perfect timing because he's started his venture into management, so he could come on and promote that. And then it was just, who do you know and how can we start getting people on to make it more than just 5 guys talking rambling shit, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it was at the beginning. It was just like, how are you doing? Then it evolved to Shane picking up a guitar and starting to do like a Jack Black vibe of what's the next line, which everybody's asking for the audio for that because they keep singing it. So we're at one point going to record that, actually going to record it as a full Tenacious D vibe. I just think it's a earworm for certain people. Like, for us, it was just, Shane just said, it's just a throwaway. It's an intro for me to give a prize away, like, so, and I think on the last episode, we started dropping stuff like little videos now of like Shine Minister, we're calling it, like, because he's always got a view on like Boris's decisions, and so the Crow family have photoshopped him as the Prime Minister, and then I put a little bit of Rule Britannia over the top. So it's just evolving, boys. It's just like, yet again, learning what you're playing with, the software, and then how can I make it better? How can we kind of evolve this into an entertaining show for everybody?
Yeah, it's great. It's come like really far now. I mean, you're on Twitch as well, YouTube and Facebook, and you're expanding even further, aren't you?
Yeah, well, that's a credit to you, that is, dude, because you were like, have you checked out Twitch? And I was like, I haven't got a clue what you're on about now, but I'll definitely check that out. Then I did check it out, and I was honest with you, going, I don't know, man. It's kind of like, it seems like, you know, for the younger generation. Then yet again, my teenagers in the house are going, you got to get on Twitch. So we're looking to evolve that now. So the Crowcast kind of works more for YouTube and especially Facebook Live. I mean, the figures we get on there are fantastic sometimes, but I'd definitely say like we need to pay more attention to YouTube and Twitch, but we're looking at maybe implementing more content with Twitch as well. So like you commented earlier about the setup, Tom, I'm going to evolve this into more for gaming now as well, because I've got like a sofa over here. And when we're allowed, I'm going to get the boys up and we're going to do like maybe like band kind of gaming, because we're all into FIFA. And we might do a bit of Call of Duty and stuff like that. And just basically, then one of our guests said the other day, which I'm absolutely petrified of horror films. So we had 2 directors on for the new film Hosts, which is out in January. And they said that they would like to see a Ronnie Reacts camera. Because like I just genuinely don't do well with horror films. So this is another thing we've been thinking of how to implement it and how to entertain people. And the way the world is at the moment, if you bang that up online, that creates content. It creates views and it's an interaction with people. Like, so I think we're going to do some sort of night vision watching horror films with a Ronnie Reacts. Because honestly, man, if I went to the cinema with you two and we watched a horror, I don't think you'd end up coming back watching the movie. It's a really bad habit I've picked up of like a nervous twitch, and I do the screams and the fucking outbursts and throwing popcorn. Because like I said, my last visit was with a group of mates watching the Evil Dead remake a couple of years ago, and they were like, look, Ron, we'll pay for your ticket, we'll pay for your food. I was like, all right, then it's going to cost you. So they bought me all the popcorn, everything. I sat there. We didn't even get past the trailer, which I think my family told me the other day. I want to say it's The Conjuring. Are you both horror fans?
Ish.
Is that the one dude in the trailer that they like clap their hand, or she came out of a fucking closet or something? Or
I haven't seen it personally. I don't know if you have.
Well, there was a trailer and this clap just happened, and that was it. I screamed in the cinema. The popcorn went up in the air, and the whole place was in hysterics. Like, do you know what I mean? So we didn't even get halfway through the movie, and everybody's kind of looking behind. Or you can hear them rumbling, going, "Oh, he's fucking nuts. He is."
I can definitely see your reaction to horror things going down well if you're like just screaming and crying.
Yeah, you become a meme after like news, won't you?
Yeah, man. I just don't handle them. I don't digest it very well. I think because we're in this weird world, like everybody keeps saying, and you can't ignore it. You want to brush over it, but we as a family have really made the most of it. So my mental health is amazing, and I can say that because everybody seems to pick everybody up at the right point, or we've had the birthdays in lockdown, so the family decided, well, we can't go out for a meal or anything, so we'll theme them. So like, you know, mine was a Mexican theme, and I came down in the morning grumpy as shit. Oh God, birthday, here we go. And everybody's there with fucking Mexican mustaches on and sombreros, and there's Mexican music playing, and the whole theme was Mexico, because I actually wanted to go on holiday there this year, like, you know. So it's those little details that kind of keep your mental health above water, like, do you know what I mean? Where you're a bit like, wow, that was amazing. That's probably one of the best birthdays I've had for I don't know how long. And we did the same for like my kids, whether it was Hawaiian theme or like Halloween this year is the first time we've really embraced it as a family. So we were carving pumpkins and making pumpkin soup and watching horror films, which I never do for fucking, that's for sure. Like, do you know what I mean? I never do that, but it was real fun. Like, and even the kids were like, oh my God, he's going to go by you. And which I did, like, you know, so it's just, yeah, it's really cool, but it's all all connected to, like I said, COVID. There's a lot I'm experiencing which I wouldn't have dabbled on.
Sounds like you're dealing with it all really well, though. I think what you said about the mental health as well, it's a big thing at the moment, isn't it, with loads of people out of work and the nights getting shorter and stuff like that. That's one of the reasons we wanted to start this podcast, is just so we're talking to different people each week, because there's less of that human interaction now you normally get, at gigs, at pubs, stuff like that. It's just all been taken away. So I think doing something like this, on a regular basis is just a good way to chat to other people, isn't it?
I agree with you. I mean, like you said with the Crowcast, I think that helps. It almost creates a false sense of busyness. And you'll find this with your podcast now. You'll be promoting it. So it gives you more things to do on one certain thing, and that's without you guys. I know you're always busy anyway with the bands and everything you do with the label. But I found even just trying to track down guests, approaching them, getting posters ready, then kind of preparing for how we're going to chat to them. We treat it the same as you two. It's almost like, like I'm chatting to the both of you now. It's not the fact that I know you. It's just, I always look at it as, if we're down the pub together now having a beer, we generally would talk about all of this anyway. How have you been keeping? What have you been up to? Or, and just random stuff starts coming out of the pot, as you both know. Like when you're down there with your mates, you start talking about the most obscure stuff that you kind of wish, I wish this was being recorded now. This would be amazing, So, and not even for everybody else to listen to. So you could, you could listen back rather than pick it out of that memory jar, which me and the boys seem to do quite a lot. Oh, do you remember that time we were doing this? Or, that would have been amazing if we recorded that. Can you imagine that? That'd be so funny. But it's always still in your head, But yeah, man, it's like I said, the Crowcast has kept us so busy that I haven't really had time to think about much else, and then we've been very fortunate as a band, because you've got to think the world changed roughly for us around February.
Well, I was going to say, it's been a proper roller coaster year for you, hasn't it? Because if you cast your mind back to January, what was it, a month before Point of No Return came out? I mean, it's been a roller coaster year for everyone, but for you guys especially, there's been a lot of highs, and then there must have been a few can't believe what's going on here moments as well, because you had the album came out in February, you had a killer headline tour up and down the UK, selling out venues, being upgraded all over the place. And in some ways, I guess you could look at it, you were quite lucky that you got to do that tour just weeks before music was cancelled forever. But then I know you went on to sign a Live Nation deal, and then obviously all live music is cancelled, and it's just been a mad year, isn't it? I mean, if we'd had this conversation in January and I said to you, this is what's going to happen over the next 10, 11 months, you'd be like, Tom, what are you on about?
Boys, you can't write it. I mean, I know everybody's in the same boat, but you can only sometimes focus on your journey. And it's not a selfish thing. It's just, like I said, everybody's in the same boat, but we're focusing on our path and our journey at the moment. And exactly what you said there, man. I mean, how do you write that as your own path of, you sell out the tour, which you've always wanted to do in a band. You've always wanted to see that poster. It's sold out so quick that we could have even upgraded it again. So it was like, wow, this is amazing. And then we know we're trying to please management, label, agent. We're doing all of this because you're almost looking for everybody else to be happy, because that good news and that success brushes off on them, which makes you guys work even harder, because you're like, right, we got to do this now. What about this idea and stuff? So it gives you stuff to kind of bounce. So that's how we always think. We're always thinking about, would the label be happy if we did that, or would the agent be happy if we thought of that idea? Because like I said, the more people with creative minds and pushing the band. So we finally get to that point where we come off the tour, as you said, Tom, and then we had the amazing news of Live Nation approached us. They wanted that sorted. And then we switched agents as well, which was such a big choice. Our previous agent did a great job. Ross Warner came forward. We've admired Ross for years. So it was nothing personal. It was just the fact of, we've always loved Ross Warnock. I've known him since, not personally, but I've known of him at least since 2007, 2008. Admire what his dad did. So then to get approached by him, and that and Live Nation came together so quick. Then within a week, we were offered the main stage of Download, 4 bands. I think it was like 4 bands under Iron Maiden, which yet again, if you would have told like young Ronnie that, it's like
Crazy.
I was just like, and yet again, we're going to probably do a whole episode. You're bouncing back the Crowcast where I'm listening to Ryan Richards and Moose and Padge talking about how they toured with Iron Maiden. I'm listening to Ricky Warwick saying Iron Maiden stories. So you got all these friends or people you respect with the stories, and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, we're playing 4 bands under Iron Maiden. You know what I mean? And then it's, as you said, it all starts coming away piece by piece. You know, they were talk. I don't know what was 100%. And obviously you know the score, even though we're on your chatting, is still, there's a lot going on with all your bands at the moment. And some of it you can say, some of it you can't. But there was definitely talks of going across the pond. Because I know you guys shared that on your socials about we might be visiting the States. So there was a lot of talk and a lot of plans being made. And that came right bang on the middle. So it's almost everybody having this conference and it's all about you finally. Like, you know, it's your turn. Yeah. And then somebody running in the room naked, distracting everybody, and then them going, anyway, what else is on the agenda? And they've completely fucking forgotten about you. Like, do you know what I mean? So that was the fear that we had, was shit, have we missed have we missed our boat? Have we missed our path? Unfortunate enough, we just kept battling and kind of coming up with ideas, hence the Crowcast was born. And then we were thinking of other little things. How can we keep everybody entertained? Shane started doing online covers, which was fantastic, because he did versions of Point of No Return, which kind of caught everybody's attention. Then obviously did the Alter Bridge song, which kept everybody yet again looking at the Crows, so the name wasn't going away. Then we were launching new merch. All of a sudden that was selling out, and it was like, okay, let's do more merch. Let's think of what else we can do. Then the Roxy Asylum came up on the table. Yeah. You know, how would you feel about doing a live stream? And we were like, and I got to admit personally, I was really nervous about that.
It must be a thing, isn't it? I mean, I was talking to Baz Massive Wagons about this, and he said he feels like a bit of a prat, like playing in a live venue when there's no one there and telling everyone to clap their hands and things like that. It must come. It's not a natural thing to do, really, is it?
For sure. I mean, it was the whole thing. It was the whole thing for me. I videoed a bit of it because I had this idea of kind of documenting the journey. But then after a while, I stopped documenting it because I felt a prat. Just because I could see how kind of nervous I was, where never mind just playing the show, it was the whole, I hadn't seen anybody for I don't know how long. I'd been in this bubble, pardon the pun, I know that's the global word for it, but I had been in this bubble of family life, like Betty Crocker cooking fucking meringues and cakes and barbecuing all of a sudden, like, you know, and I've got to do the things that I've always wanted to do, like learn how to smoke a piece of meat and stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, I've gone from this cushy arrangement of seeing the guys on the TV once a week and speaking to the fans, to you're going to go and do a gig. And then not only am I about 3 times as big as I was, I'm thinking, oh no, I haven't done no exercise. I've been drumming, thank God. So I was kind of match fit and I was up on my playing. And then I started thinking about, what if I get the virus? Oh my God, I'm going to be in touch with everybody else. Oh my God, so just so much was going on in my brain that even the arrangements to get up there, how are you all getting up there? Oh, I'm going on my own. I don't want to be with any of you. And then it'd be like, okay. And then I remember at the time, our manager at that point, he was saying, right, okay, what about rooms? Does anybody want to share? Oh, I'm not sharing with anybody. I'm literally going up there, I'm doing the gig, and I'm coming home. And like, it was so refreshing, boys, to get there. And then I started seeing your John Normans. They were the first ones. And then I think I seen Stone Broken, caught up with those guys. And then the Wagons. And then all of a sudden you remembered, which sounds so crazy to you. I don't know if Baz said this to you, Tom, but you start to remember the normality of like interacting with people. Because I think they had it luckily, and I think you guys had it a bit more lucky. We were, at that point, we were like proper shutdown and a shutdown away from everyone, where I think the boys were still able to like go to their unit and still create content.
Right.
And the whole album, you were on track for the Wagons record and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think they had that closeness that I've been around somebody apart from my wife or my children, like, do you know what I mean? Where with me, I hadn't, and it seems weird to say that. I don't know if you two were in the same situation, but you keep somebody isolated and no human contact for I don't know how many weeks we were. It's all a bit of a blur now, but that really does rub off on your psyche, like, do you know what I mean? It's,
it's a really hard thing and unnatural to just not, like we said, have that human interaction. I mean, what is the situation in Wales currently? Because you went back into lockdown earlier than England did, didn't you? Because it's our first day today of the month-long lockdown till December 4th. But you guys went a bit quicker, didn't you?
We are out of it on Monday, so I was saying to Mike, I got my Christmas shopping planned. And that's what I mean. That's how mad humans are. I'm saying to the both of you, I can't wait to get the fuck out and like do shopping.
It's bizarre, isn't it, how like, because you're not that far away from us. I don't know how many miles it is, but what's like 3 or 4 hours, something like that. And you're just coming out of lockdown, and we're just going into lockdown. It's kind of a strange thing that they've come up with here, isn't it?
I think it's ridiculous, man. I mean, China was hitting onto it, and I kind of agree with him. Of just unite us, like it is the United Kingdom. Do you know what I mean? It's not medieval Wales, England, unless it's footy, man, and then we'll kick your ass. But well,
it's another topic.
I always say that. It's like, it never happens. But it's like we are united. Like, just kind of, if you're gonna do it, shut the island down, as I call it. Shut the whole place down. Keep us all under the same roof. Keep us all under the same rules. Stop people going out. Stop it, and stop people coming in.
Yeah.
And then, like, let's try that for a bit. And then if that works, fantastic. Then slow it down. Be careful who's coming in, obviously. Like, get them tested and everything. And then yet again, watch who's going out. And when they return, I don't know. Like, I'm not a politician, but I think you guys have probably thought the same. If you can simplify it a lot, everybody under the same rules. And just kind of try and, if you're going to go through this economic chaos that we're going through of shutting down businesses and stuff, then let's try and do it properly, like, you know, not...
Yeah, that's how I feel as well. It seems like a halfway house at the moment, doesn't it? It's like everyone wants this over as quick as possible, but it's like they won't quite go the whole way, you know, because I'm not a economist either, don't know anything about politics really. I was talking to Mike the other day and I was saying, can't they just print a load more money and give it to people?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's how currency works. But,
well, but then I saw on the news this morning, that's like the Bank of England have printed 150 billion or something, and it's like, okay, great. Can you make some more?
Yeah, can you just reel some off? Like,
there are some sort of side effects to that I'm completely oblivious to. But yeah, the whole thing. I mean, the fact that universities students have gone back, to me, seems crazy. Like, I live in Nottingham. It's a big student town, and they knew this was going to happen. They brought all the students back all over the country, and then they turn around and blame students for mingling in student halls. And it's like, well, you knew it was going to be online learning, so why didn't you just tell everyone to stay home, and then you can work online and avoid this kind of thing? But I don't know. It makes me feel. I mean, I read a lot of the reason why they did that is because obviously there's these landlords with huge student blocks of flats, and they can't have them empty. They just can't, because then they lose loads of money. So that's one of the big reasons why people have gone back to uni. And it just seems like this endless battle between making money and keeping people safe.
You can't have it in between. It needs to be everything shut, really, or everything open. There's no real in between, because it clearly doesn't work. I mean, it's been really bad in Nottingham the students have kind of brought it back with them, and then suddenly 5 days later we're announced into lockdown, and now the whole county and so on. It's just getting progressively worse and worse.
Yeah. No, it's bad, and it seems like Boris, I don't know, I don't want to get too stuck into him, but it seems like he's just trying to it's just an indecisive motherfucker, isn't he? Basically, just trying to please these people one minute, next minute he's trying to please these people over here without actually making a decisive decision and going, right, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to deal with it. You look at other countries and how they've dealt with it. Like it's clear that we're not on a good track over here. And I don't want to get all doom and gloom, but I mean, our England lockdown starts today. It's supposed to end in December 4th, but I don't know. I can't really see how.
But even that's fucking bonkers, boys, right? Yours is starting today. You're in a fucking month lockdown. We're allowed out on Monday. We can't come over to England, which yet again, okay, I get that rule. But there's going to be people creeping over the border for a pint. There's fucking gonna be, like, do you know what I mean? How can you police that? So therefore, like, our government has opened all the pubs and that. You can only mix with one other house, but you can go to the pub with 4 people. There's just so many things that I obviously probably don't read them properly because I think it's all at the shit. I find it hard, like you said about the schools and unis. I know education's important, but if they're trying to sort the curve and like you say, you don't want to get too doom and gloom, but it's a reality fact, and it's exactly what everybody's talking about at the moment. Is my boy had 3 scares over the last I don't know how many weeks of can you please come and collect your child because somebody has tested positive for COVID. And I'm like, fuck. So that means that my house is going to have to shut down now for I don't know how many days. Yeah. Then you get a text then about 3 hours later going, hey, it's all good. And he can return to fucking danger tomorrow. Okay. All right, cool. So we send him back into danger the next day. Then you get another message and saying, can you please come and collect your child? Because he's yet again, somebody else has tested COVID. Then it's like, right, keep him home for now. Okay, keep him home. Then 9 o'clock at night, you get another message going, your child is fucked. He's been in touch with people with COVID, so you're going to have to isolate him, but you don't have to isolate. Oh, that's cool. So the meal I shared with him earlier and the high fives and the sitting there watching TV, of course, that was nothing. So you go upstairs, son. You sit in your bedroom now for a week, 2 weeks and quarantine. Me and your mum are off out. We're going to go and buy some rolls and whatever. Then we're going to go and see my 94-year-old old man, give him a big hug. Because it's all right. Because if you don't show symptoms, we're fine. If you do, we'll just be fucked with you in about 5 days. Like, do you know what I mean? It's mad, honestly, boys. And I hope that ramble and a bit of humor makes sense in some way, because it doesn't make sense. That's the point of it. It just doesn't make sense. Do you know what I mean?
Black Mirror, that Charlie Brooker Netflix. It's like we've slipped into a Black Mirror episode, isn't it? Where it's like, I'm not allowed to go visit my gran and give her a hug. It's like,
I forgot about that episode, dude. That's an amazing episode.
It's just, the whole thing's bizarre. It's really, really strange, and obviously it's just made things really difficult for bands and not just bands, but people all over the country. And I feel sorry for everyone who's lost their job as well through no fault of their own, and just that's it, they've been made redundant. I mean, how's it going in Bridgend? Like, do you know many people have lost their work and stuff like that?
Yeah, I know a few. And it does suck. I mean, a few of them have taken redundancy, which is helpful. But a couple of them have actually, there's nothing they can really do about it. So they're having to kind of look at other options. Us as a band, we're all right. Everybody's kind of keeping their heads above water. Everything's kind of fine there. It is a weird one because obviously we were on the roller coaster of doing this for a living. And that's just kind of on hold at the moment. But we're all kind of still trying to be very proactive. As weird as that sounds, it is still hard to go out and maintain a full job by trying to keep as active as we are with the band. Even in COVID, that sounds so crazy to say that, but yet again, like we did Germany a couple of weeks ago. So 2020 has been a fucked up year, but...
How was that Germany trip, by the way? Because that was really recently, wasn't it?
Phenomenal.
Something like that. But
phenomenal. I mean, we were on the wire for that one, man. Because like you said, it's all relevant to the lockdown. Were we just about, Mike? I can't remember the phone call. Were we in lockdown or
Yeah, you were in lockdown at one point, just about to come out of it, I think. And I mean, we were all on edge through that process.
Yeah.
the idea of you needing a test to get into the country and the test taking so long and having to be fast-tracked and then getting the result fast-tracked separately and
We got the
finding out your result
of the flight.
already on the way. It's just...
It was bonkers.
crazy.
It was bonkers. I mean, the lead up to that was, do you want to do Rock Palast, which we knew ages in advance. Then obviously we didn't think we'd be doing Rock Palast because of COVID. Then the Germans were like, yeah, absolutely fine. Let's have them. Then Bridgend was seen as that's right. You've just jogged my memory now, because Bridgend was seen as what do they call them? I've just had a mind blank. Was it?
A hotspot.
Yeah, let's call it that. Let's go Michael Barrymore. It was flat out hotspot. So it was one of those areas that, oh no, Bridgend, do you know what I mean? Which is kind of normal for us. But it was like, so that rung bells of, oh shit. So now it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. Then everybody was working kind of behind the scenes and working really hard. And it was like, yep, just make it happen. Then the idea of we were going to have to go to London within the 48-hour window. And a lot of people have asked us, why did you have to go to London? Why did you have to go there? Because there was nowhere else. I mean, this was all like last minute. So there was nowhere to book a private test. So we went to London. We had the test, which was, it was just like, it was horrible. It was horrible. Like for me personally. Have you two had one or?
No.
No, not yet, luckily.
Yeah. Keep away from that shit.
It's just a swab inside in the cheek.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like your auntie's had a few drinks and she's whacked a cotton bud far too far up your nose. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, come here, love. You've got a bit of a boogie, but then, and then she's kind of like trying to pick it out. And it's up there for far too long and it's far too uncomfortable that when she brings it back out, your nose is like fucking flaring.
Yeah.
And then the throat thing, I'm a bit of a gagger, you know. Some people like things in the back of their throat, don't they? Like,
Did you have a contingency plan if like one of you had tested positive, say like Lloyd or Dave or yourself had tested positive, but the rest of you were negative? Were you going to all go as one, or did you have like backup people ready to step in?
Didn't think of that.
Just hope for the best. Yeah.
I'd love to go. Yeah, we were like so fucking on it that we had a backup plan. Everything was so mad. Even down to the point to love him, we were like, oh fuck, we got a techie coming with us, because we got Kevin Morgan Patworth, who's done a lot of work for like Iron Maiden, Bullet, and everything. And we were like, we needed someone who knew their shit and could help us. And we were like, fuck, Kev's going to have a test. So he had to come up to London with us. So even that, we had to kind of sync what everyone was doing. And like Kev was kind of trying to maintain some sort of work over here because there's no work for roadies at the moment. So then that kind of interfered with his life. But yeah, to be honest with you, the way I looked at it, if one of us had tested positive, we were all pretty fucked because we've all been in touch with each other. So I kind of just took that on, not thinking, well, if four of us could do it, does that mean we leave him over this side of the bridge and we take somebody else? Or does Germany... I didn't really think of that, to be honest. We probably would have made something work. I think besides... Yeah, I think we would have made something work, to be honest. We were that far into it at that point. Even if I had to, like, do my best George Foreman, cooking or fucking doing anything on the front of that stage, just anything, I think we would have just kind of... Yeah, just turned up, just even turned up and gone, hello, we can't play fuck all because our singer's got COVID, but we'll do an instrumental for like 70 minutes or whatever it was. Like,
I think it needed to happen.
Well, sorry, Mike, what were you saying?
I think it needed to happen. I mean, the fans absolutely went crazy because there's been no gigs, nothing. I mean, there's been a bit of live streaming here and there, but there's not been a sort of full gig experience like that. I mean, you had people watching it, didn't you? Like in-house, seated,
man.
shot cameras. It was the full works, wasn't it?
There was a minimum of 110 there. So to not play any gigs, then all of a sudden go from nothing to a German crowd. So it was like, holy shit, we're in Europe playing a gig. Not even in like, you know, I could play to less down the road, like, you know, but it was just the fact if we're in Germany in a pandemic playing a gig, this is phenomenal. And even though like some people are like, oh, it was bad, man, they couldn't cheer. I didn't think it was bad. It was incredible. It was incredible, the response we had afterwards, which nobody would have seen that. But everybody from a distance was like, love you. Nobody went away unhappy. The production fell in love with us, which was a great success. So if we ever went out there to work again, they were already saying we'd love to work with you. I think it was just such a success, especially for Digby and the label and everything, putting everything they had into it. Like we come away as champions in a way. I mean, the director was like, you were the best band of the whole thing. He was just so loving it afterwards. He was like, and I think we had like the biggest reaction online and stuff like that, and that they've had for a long time. Just because of the interactions and stuff from the Crow fans and stuff.
It seemed to go down really well. So what were the rules in terms of the people watching you? You said then they're not allowed to cheer, and obviously they're all socially distanced as well, so I guess it's kind of spread out.
Yeah, they sat next to each other. They were all like in whatever, out in rows and however they had them seated.
Right.
Everybody wore a mask.
Yeah.
And you were allowed to applaud, but like
no mosh pits.
Half a song in, dude, they were fucking bouncing in their seats. Yeah, honestly, it was like there was a few of them like literally just it like from the drums, when I'd see the lights kind of speckle across them, I'd be like, fucking hell, it almost looked like gremlins in a way, just going absolutely crazy. Like, do you know that episode of like where they're in the cinema singing Hi Ho and losing their shit and stuff? That's what it felt like for me, and that was a real buzz then, because I could see, because the thing is, you got to think with when everybody's looking at you these days with a mask on, you just see that, don't you? You don't know whether they're smiling, you don't know anything. So when you start to see the hands going and the arms in the air like that, and this, you're like, fucking hell, they're digging it, like, this is great. And then the applause start. And then Shane I felt sorry for, because he wanted nothing more than to jump off that stage and to embrace them all, like, you know. There was a balcony there, that's all he kept saying. I just want to fucking climb on that balcony, like, that's because that's what he's known for now across the UK, isn't he? Like, you know, he is fucking he is the new rock Spider-Man, like, you know. And anybody seen to do it, sadly, is you know, emulating him, because his favorite singers are like your Eddie Vedders, who used to hang from like PAs and stuff. So he's just got into that whole acrobatics of performing.
He gets into some quite sketchy situations though, doesn't he? He's obviously not afraid of heights and stuff like that.
I'll have to ask him. I mean, I've known him since we were kids, but I just think he's in the moment that he doesn't really know what he's afraid of. And he lives it. I know that about him. Like, do you know what I mean? Because he's exactly like me. You've drunk a bottle of adrenaline and you're just fucking there, and you're not really thinking of any danger or anything. So, but there was a couple where I've seen him on the road and thought, fuck, you know, if he falls, it's game over. This game over.
I saw one video. It's my favourite one of Shane where I've seen like that, where I think he crowd surfs to the back of the venue, and then he's at the bar and he just starts getting the shots in like mid-song. Yeah. He's just like, hang on a minute, I'll be with you soon. I just need to get some shots in.
Well, it actually became part of the show for a while, where it was just a beautiful moment. A lot of bands go on, and I respect them. We love your Queens and Foo Fighters and you know, Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden. But then there's bands who just go on and fair play. They do their show, and every night is pretty much the same show. And that's it. That's what they rehearse. That's what, you know, you don't go off script. Don't go off script. We're very much, we like to go off script. Or the set may be the same, or we might make changes to the set, but we might extend certain parts. And that's become part of it. We don't know what the fuck he's going to do. So sometimes he'll go for a wander, and he comes back with a tray full of tequila. And then we'll take 5 in the show to really take in what's going on in our lives. Because in previous bands and trying to get anywhere in this industry, you concentrate so much on the negativity and the crap memories that you don't take a moment to actually embrace the good ones. So I applaud Shane for doing that, because he almost gives you that 5 minutes to go, hey, fucking look at that out there. And especially like our album launch at Point of No Return, you know, we were getting the whispers. I mean, I had a screenshot sent to me by somebody in the industry, because you guys get all figures and stuff like that. We actually went in, as you both know, the real thing, at number 3 before it charted midweek. So when we had that kind of news, we were like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? You're like,
Stormzy, wasn't it? I remember.
yeah, it's like, well, number 1 was Green Day.
Lewis Capaldi, I think, was 2. And then
Lewis Capaldi, then those damn crows Point to No, but I was like, what?
like 5 or something. So.
I straight away sent it to my son. He's like a massive Stormzy fan. And I was like, suck on that, look at that, boy, that's amazing. Fuck Stormzy, rock and roll and all of that. Yeah, all right, Stormzy beat us in the end, but it's like, you know, it's a marathon, isn't it? It's not a race, boys, it's a marathon.
At one moment in time, you were bigger than Stormzy, so...
At one moment, exactly. That's what we're holding on to that. But Shane didn't want to say that live in the gig, but the gig was so phenomenal and electrifying and everything that he just stopped the gig for a bit. We all stood there. We all said cheers to the crowd. And he's been carrying on that. He did it in Planet Rock stock, because we kind of turned up and we stepped in for a band last minute, and it ended up being like such a special moment. The place was just like, because there's that part we always do at the end. We were those damn, and then the crowd now have all of a sudden taken on the Crows part, where they just sing Crows for ages. But this didn't stop, boys. I mean, like, I got goose pimples now. Whoa, that's brilliant. It was just like, it just echoed for ages. And then we were on the merch table for like 2.5, 3 hours. So it was just a phenomenal, and with that type of band, it ain't like, okay, we've done 45 minutes, or we've done what our management has said we can do. We'll stay out there all night and try and, you know, shake hands and kiss babies, innit? That's the whole point. Like,
you've obviously got a really strong bond as a band together. You can tell that from listening to the Crowcast, that you're all just obviously best mates before you're even really a band, because you go back a long way, don't you? You all went to school together in Bridgend, is that right?
Yeah, man. Myself, Shane and Shiner, we went a comprehensive together. So we kind of met there and did the whole football and stuff like that. And it was really cool because, like, Nirvana exploded, and there was a few bands around our way. One was like early, I'm going to call it early Jeff Killjohn, which turned out to be Bullet. And like they were all having to like learn their craft and stuff, where it was like, I've brought this up before. It's so funny because me and Shane were like, we can do that shit. We could, you know, because I was playing drums. I was able to play drums. Don't know how, but I could just get on a kit and start banging out like your AC/DC beats and stuff. It was just there because of obviously my background with my dad being a drummer, and then Shane's dad was on acoustic. We just, without having like lessons, we kind of had it. Do you know what I mean? It's just a weird, so it was almost like, yeah, we can do this band thing, which we did.
So you always wanted to be in a band, even from when you were little? That was the aim?
No, I mean, when I was like super little, I just wanted to kind of, because my dad was doing almost like West End shows and pantos and stuff like that. I just kind of wanted to be like Babes in the Wood. Did you ever see that panto? Or am I being too old school now? Yeah, they'd be like, I wanted to be one of the kids in there, or the dancers used to come on. I just always wanted to be part of the show. And I had this real cool education without realizing it of chorus lines and harmonies, and sitting in an orchestra pit with 17 to 28 musicians all syncing and complimenting each other. So I kind of had that experience without appreciating it, to be honest, because that was just my life personally. Do you know what I mean? And like 14, I got to be like property master, and I was doing like pantos like Jack and the Beanstalk. So it'd be my job to make sure that the stool was in the right place, or that was there, or there was a bowl, or the golden hen was there, and like then I worked my way on to follow spots. And music, without like going around a thing, was always part of my life, like, you know, of the showbiz. You know, my dad did a lot for the BBC, and it was kind of nothing nothing unfamiliar to kind of wake up at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night and have Ross Kemp in your fucking house eating soup or something, like, do you know what I mean? So yeah.
I didn't know that. So your dad's obviously a professional drummer as well. What sort of stuff was he doing with the BBC?
He did a lot of for S4C, he did like Helenor, or whatever it's called, however you say it, Helenor. So he did a Heno as well, which I think is hello or welcome, or I should know my national language. But then he did BBC work. He did like a lot of BBC Three Live, and he'd just be like a session musician basically. So anybody needing, he was kind of there at the right point, like, do you know what I mean? So, and he used to do like children in need and stuff like that. And then like growing up, he would be working with like people like Leslie Crowder, like Dusty Bin, and Keith. I want to say Keith Richards, but I know that's Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
But I think his name is Keith Richards as well, with Orville and fucking the monkey as well, Cuddles,
right,
and stuff like that. So yeah, I had that whole like show busy kind of life kind of growing up, like, without kind of, you know, realizing what I was in as well, if that makes sense. I was very fortunate with that, like I said, of having just really cool moments of, like I said, waking up 10:30 at night and Ross Kemp's at your door going, "What?" I'm like,
yeah.
"All right, dude." And like he'd come in, I'd be like, "Fucking hell, that's a dude from EastEnders," like, do you know what I mean? Because he was actually Grant Mitchell at that time, and or there'd be other people just walking in, because my dad had brought them back after the show and said like, "Yeah, it's fine to come back. My wife will cook a soup and she'll put a buffet on and stuff. We'll have a few drinks," and that's kind of was the norm, like, do you know what I mean? It was fucking bizarre, like, you know. And I think like Ross was down at one point seeing former cast members, or it was just bizarre shit used to happen in my life, like, do you know what I mean, where just random people would be there, or be at my christening and stuff. So having that as your daytime activities, there was a drum kit there, so I used to go on the drums, and the musical director used to let me just go on the piano and have a little play around with that. So I was always kind of tampering with instruments. And then when we went to comp, myself and Shane had an amazing teacher called Peter Jones, who just kind of nurtured our talents. He pointed Shane out, and he would make sure that he realized that he could write songs, and he would give him time on the piano where nobody else was allowed to touch the piano. And this story's been told far better than I can explain it, but it was just little perks we were allowed. I chose geography because my dad told me there was no life in music. So he said to go and do geography. I don't know what the fuck you do for geography, let's be honest. I don't know whether he was... Yeah, maps. That's the only thing I know with geography. So I don't know why... Yeah, don't do music, which, you know... And I mean, at that point, I weren't really playing drums or anything. That's the truth. I had a little lesson off my dad, which didn't last long, because he wanted me to do rudiments. For anybody who don't know what they are, they're like, he was going, mama, dada. So it was like doubles. And he would leave the room, and I'd start be like, da, 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 da. I'd be like fucking proper hitting the shit out of him. And then he'd come in the room, hit my hand. He was like so old school, hit my hand. And I kind of look at him and be like, ah. And I'd be like, Mom, he just hit me with it. And then that'd be it. I was like, I ain't learning off you, which was a massive mistake now I look back, because he was a fucking ace drummer, like, do you know what I mean? So, but from that moment on, I never had a lesson off him. I was like, nope, can't work with you, mate. Can't work with you. And then my music teacher weirdly must have known that I had something there, because he went out and bought a drum kit. He didn't tell me, didn't tell anybody. Went and bought a drum kit on the school's budget.
Wow.
Got me out of geography. Said, what are you doing in there? I said, don't know, my dad's made me do it. Well, your dad's wrong. And then he got me down to music.
Oh, great.
My first lessons were, all these boxes were there. And he said, your first lesson is open them, which I did. And it was like Christmas. And he was like, and now you got to learn to set them up, and you got to learn to tune them. And he used to like hit the piano keys and stuff, and I tuned the drums to the piano. And then my first song was like jamming Shine, Jesus Shine with him, which was like, I don't know if you ever heard that. It was like a hymn.
From a
He just started jamming it. And what I played, which I know now, was just a simple like punk beat. It was a proper like da 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 da. So it was like a punk rock version of fucking Shine Jesus Shine. It was it was so class. Now I look back, like it was proper. That would have been released on fucking Earache. That would, for his time, that would have been amazing. That would have.
We've got Peter Jones basically to thank for. Was it Peter Jones?
Yeah, spot on. And Shane, like, you know, you'll speak to Shane. Shane had similar experiences, and he brought mine and Shane's friendship closer because we obviously had this weird music thing in common that we were like, this is awesome, isn't it? And then we jam. He wouldn't let anybody else into jam because you could speak to Moose from Bullet and Killer Lights. Now he'd be like, oh, I fucking hated Peter Jones because no one else was allowed in there. It was weird. He just kind of let us have the playground, if you get me. We could play on all the keyboards. Then he started kind of getting us to write songs and stuff on this really old school computer. And then we'd have a tape recorder in the corner of the room. He'd let us form a band within that music. Do you know what I mean? So it was sadly he passed away, man, when we left school. So he never got to see that, like, when we left school as friends. Myself and Shane went on to play like Covent Garden Rock Gardens at 16, the Pepsi Chart Studios by the time we were 17. So we were like doing venues thanks to him as a band. And he never really got to see the fruits of his labor, like, do you know what I mean? Or his belief, like, do you know what I mean? It was incredible.
You need people like that, though, don't you, early on in life, just to sort of put you on the right path. I remember, I don't have any musical talent whatsoever, but obviously love it anyway. And I had a music teacher, and I remember one thing they said to me, which has stuck ever since. They said it to the whole class, but they basically said, there's a difference between good and bad music and what you like and dislike. And up until that point, I basically thought that all good music was the stuff I liked and all bad music was the stuff I didn't like. But what they were saying is actually, no, there could be really good music out there, but you might not like it. And it sort of changed my perception on it a lot. And it stuck with me ever since. But I think having people in your life like that early on can make a big difference. But were you and Shane good boys at school, or did you get into much trouble?
Oh, I was a little shit. I was a little shit, man. I used to, I was easily distracted, put it that way. Like I think I've worked it out as I'm older. I think most drummers got it, to be honest. I've got some form of like ADHD. I've got some fucking crazy mannerisms where I do things in a moment and then kind of look back with my dad head on or my grown-up head and go, what the fuck are you jumping off Toys R Us buildings and stuff like that for? Or
what did he do? You jumped off a Toys R Us building?
Yeah, that was later on in life. That's when I was actually an adult. I was drunk and somebody had pointed out that there was an R in Toys R Us, and I was like, I'm gonna get that. R means Ronnie, and I had this fucking thing in my head of like bringing down this R to make everybody laugh, because I thought in my world, which is the fucking comedy world, I'm thinking this will be brilliant if I come down with this giant R.
Yeah.
So I only got to like the first roof, and then kind of done a bit of a fucking almost famous moment and flipped off into a bush rather than a swimming pool, and it was just really lucky a branch hadn't gone through me or anything, like, you know. So yeah, man. There was definitely pockets of school of being a little bastard. I used to kind of like do little pranks, like I'd cover myself in we used to have chalkboards. I know for like the modern listeners, you have whiteboards with felt pens, but back in the dark ages we had a board, and say if the boys were winding me up or just banter, it's just always, we were always fucking horrible to each other, but it'd just be banter. And I remember going to the front of the class once and looking at them, and they could tell I was up to something. I just grabbed the fucking the duster. I just started like hitting myself with it. So I'm there in this navy blue top, red tie, fucking black trousers, and by the time the teacher walks in, I look like I've spent a week in a Colombian fucking coke lab, and I'm literally there covered in chalk dust. And she just goes, Ronnie Huxford, what's going on? And I just went, it was them. And then like pointed to my mates, and they were like, fuck. So just little things like that. Or, you know, we used to have really steep bank-ins, and we'd nick the dinner trays and fucking fly down the bank-ins and stuff. Or I always had a thing for aggravating the older boys. So you get what's called a burn. So I'd be like, you know, fucking, I don't know, I just wind like one of the sixth formers up and say like, I can't remember what I'd say. It's probably inappropriate to say what I'd say to him, but I'd say something to the fact that he wanted to kill me, like, you know, so, and then you'd spend the day running after, he'd chase you, like, you know, so you'd be like, just a little shit, like, you know, but in a nice way. I was never horrible, like flipping desks, or it was just more pranks or being thrown out of class for making people laugh, or like Moose was brilliant because he got me kicked out of fucking so many classes. I used to sit next to Moose, and at this point he was, because Moose was the first person I got in a band with. He was like, "You play drums?" I was like, I think I do. And he was like, "Well, fucking, you need to be in a band." And I think the band was Against the Grain at the time, which had like Tucker in it from Bullet, and a couple of other boys we know. And then I was like, "Oh, I don't know," and I kind of shit out of that. And then Moose was like, "Well, I'm starting a band." We had a band, and he needed a drummer. And he used to make me listen to like Megadeth and fucking Metallica, Ride the Lightning and stuff. And we'd be tapping. He was like, "See, you can fucking do it. And you can play Burnout, Green Day and stuff like that." So I'd be like, "All right, then I'll join a band." So all the time he'd have me listening to music in class. And we'd be just fucking head banging and hitting the table. The fact that I get thrown out. So it's just like innocent stuff, little things like that, like, you know, or making fun of a teacher when she turned around and everybody giggle, and then it'd just be like, "Oh, fuck, got caught." And then I'd be outside the class, you know, the shame in the hall. I'd be that kid, like, you know, where people are like, "Oh, he's fucking done something again, haven't he?" Like, you know, so yeah. And I think Shane wasn't like horrible. He was, we were quite polite young men.
Really? Yeah, it surprised me. After school, is that when you got into the tattoo? The tattoo interests came about? Because for people, you've got your own tattoo business. That's right.
No, loads of people think that, which is brill. But no, I left school at that point. Myself and Shane got into a proper band, which was called Shirker, our first ever band. And that's when we started kind of. We met another Mr. Jones, because there's a lot of them in Wales. We met Phil Jones, not to confuse you. So this one was
Man Utd centre back.
Fuck no. It's fucking useless, mate. This Phil Jones was a legend. He was in a Welsh band called Sex. He is the guy that kind of, so Peter Jones got me and Shane into the music, and then Phil Jones almost kind of showed us a path of being in a band. That's the best way to explain it. So it was almost, because what you got to think of, 6 months before this, Peter had passed. And then I went to college and I meet this Phil Jones, Geronimo Jones. He was such a fucking extravagant front man, and he'd have like leather on. It was stuff I'd never seen in my life. You know, I'd been into your Queens and like Beatles and Green Day, and then I started looking into my Pennywise and Bad Religion and stuff, and I'd never seen this almost glam side of it, you know, with a cod piece and fucking the guy with the big hair, and he brought the performing out of us, as in like, because we went to performing arts in there, and he just had all the time for any musician. And he started saying like, we got to start believing, and then he said, come and start doing some gigs with us. So we went and done some gigs with his band Sex across like Wales, which yet again upped our game. We were playing to rock crowds, and we were only doing like half covers, half original, but then we started dissing the cover side of it and started putting more original. And then Phil took us up to London. So then that showed us the path to not fuck Wales, as a lot of people think. Oh yeah, you don't want to play Wales. No, it was just, if you're going to be seen, you got to get out of Wales. We had to travel to London. So 16, we just 52-seater coach, bang. We started putting our own gigs on up in London. And that was the only way we seen as like getting a record deal. The unfortunate thing was, we're filling these venues in like, what would it have been, like 1999, 16, 17 years of age. We're filling venues, and we didn't even contact the record label. because I thought I knew everything, as in like, right, I've done everything right there. Apart from, you got to think there was no internet. You had like books back then with industry.
Yeah.
I just forgot to invite them to the actual fucking gig. So we go up there, everybody screaming, it's an amazing show and stuff. But there was no one really there to, or when I say no one there was no one there to kind of pick us up at that point, like, you know, and like I said to you, I remember playing like Dr. Fox's Pepsi charts and stuff like that. And Shane would remember some of the places, but you know, we were playing certain places and Deck were fucking passing us on the street and stuff, like, do you know what I mean? So early Ant and Deck, you know, more Biker Grove than fucking Welcome to the Jungle, like, you know, but so that was like straight out of school into college. I met my wife and I remember having a tattoo and passing out because I was like, this is fucking awful. It was such a bad experience. I think like the tattooist had a massive lump of weed on the side. Yeah. He's tattooing with the machine in one hand, and then he's picking up his joint in the other. He's putting that back down. And I had like a Welsh dragon, as you do, being 16 and fucking clueless. So I was like, yeah, all right, cool. Not realizing you had to be 18 as well to have a tattoo, which was even better. So it was like, so that was my kind of introductory to tattooing. Then I went off to do more music, to be honest, rather than tattoo. Tattoo was just, I've had one, they fucking hurt. Let's get over that. So I never had another tattoo for like years. Me and Shane were in a band till like 19, 20 years of age. And then, as they say, we all went our separate way. It was just like that time where I needed to just discover more what I was into, which I started going more down your hard rock, as in I was starting to listen to more like AC/DC, Power Age, and I was getting really over influenced by the American skate scene. So I was loving, like, you know, like I said to you, Pennywise, Bad Religion. I was really going into like Beat Stakes and bands like that, like, do you know what I mean? And then Bouncing Souls. So I started going down a completely different path, and Shirker at that point was more indie. That I always look back and I was like, oh, it's not really doing it. And so many of the boys are dropping out the band, and I think we had to do that to be where we are now, if that makes sense. So I went off, done like skate punk bands and stuff with Shiner for years. Some kind of start to get in somewhere. And then I think I got to about 30 and I had to have my tonsils out. And I had a lot of time actually in this room at that point. Made a bed up in here because when you have your tonsils out late in life, you have to be worried of infections and shit. And I watched a load of documentaries, and I thought, I'm fucking done with music. I'm just done. I'm done with the negativity of the industry. I'm done with always trying to battle for nothing. I owe it to my family now to be the best dad I can be, to be responsible. So I made that horrible decision of ta-ra bands. Mine had always got to a point where you think you're going to get somewhere and then something would go wrong, and I just kind of given up on that. I was turned into a real tool. Like, I just wanted it so much that I couldn't even really think of that ain't working, that band ain't working, I should go and join another band, that singer's a dickhead, they don't want it as much as you, so why are you fucking with them? Do you know what I mean? I couldn't process all that. So what was there at the time was just hate. It was like hating everything and not really realizing I should have just put myself in a different playing field, or surrounding myself with different people, more positive, more, I don't know, just more hungry for it, having the same beliefs as you. But that was that. My wife lost her mum around about the same time, and I was like, fuck. It's that reality pill of when you lose somebody, you're a bit like, no, you know, this is real and I need to start shaping up now. Yeah. So at that point, a very good friend of mine give me a part-time job in a tattoo studio. Prior up to this, I think it was about 28, 29. And I was doing the whole, like, I think I'd gone through 30 fucking jobs, everything from being a school LSA, to a litter picker. Anything I could do just to make it in rock and roll. And I got to like 29, my mate gave me a bit of an half handout and said, look, you can come and work for me. The money's shit, which it was. It was like £20 a fucking day, working 40 hours a week. So it was, you know, it wasn't like, you know, wicked, falling on my feet in a proper job. I was still kind of balancing that whole, well, I get to do this. I get to bring some money in, but I still get to do my music. And then 30, those just came to a decision of, fuck this. So I said to my buddy in a tattoo shop, I said, look, nothing against you, love you to bits, but you can't pay me more. You shouldn't have to pay me more. I've got to go off, got to go and get a real job. Fuck music. At that point, he was struggling. He was like, I can't run a business. I don't know how to run a business. It was a bit of a sawdust studio as well, if I'm honest. It was like, we hadn't long come out to fucking smoking in tattoo shops, and he'd be constantly puffing in there, and there was like flash on the walls and stuff. So it was like, fuck, you know. So it was so old school as in that mannerism. So he proposed an offer. He was like, why don't you come into business? And I said no. I was like, nah. So that happened for a couple of months, and then to the point then when I said I'm leaving. So there was weird shit happening in a tattoo shop at the time, a lot of arguing, and I was like, I don't get paid enough for this, as in like to make decisions. I felt like I was kind of managing it anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of got to go, because I think I was in my brain thinking, I'm done with music. What am I doing just kind of hanging around here? I could realistically go off and get another job, which would have like 2 or 3 times the pay. And that's when I just turned around and said, look, I'll buy into the business, but we're going to have to change everything. And that's when I kind of sat down with him. We put the friendship aside for like a little bit and kind of just, I told him what I had a problem with. He said he was willing to change it. And that would have been that would have been about 2011. And then the next 3 years, we just smashed it and turned everything around, started working on the studio. He became a international award-winning tattooist, which I was really fucking proud of. The studio started winning awards. It was everything you want. I was turning over a lot of money, which I was like, wow, this is incredible. I'm not doing bad at this whole running a business thing.
Yeah.
And then my family said the worst thing possible. My mum had passed. I apologize. I got to say it. My mum had passed. And just before she passed, she said she missed me playing drums. And I was like, what? I was like, I get to take you out for meals now. I was like, you know, I can afford it. I got money. I got this thing called money. And she's like, nah, it don't mean nothing to me. She said, it don't, you know, I preferred the Ronnie who was like trying to make it in music. I preferred that. That's the son. That's the one I'd always back. It don't matter how much money you got. You've only got one chance. And I was like, fucking hell, ma'am. I've had like 50 chances and none of them have happened. And she's like, no. It's what made you happy. So I ignored it. Sadly, she passed away. And then not long after that, then I was having my food and my family hit me with the same reality stick of, why don't you go back and be in a band? I was like, no, I am absolutely done with that. And I started raging and they went, yeah, but it doesn't have to be like that. And they started kind of saying, well, why don't you get in a band with people you actually like for a start? Why don't you not worry about making it? Because she said, you know, I remember my wife saying, are you happy with your family? Yeah. Are you happy with our house? I was like, fuck yeah. And she was like, well, you've made it. You've made it. She said, not a lot of people find that happiness. You're happy with everything you have now. But she said, you ain't happy. And they'd worked that out. Music was kind of a void and missing in my life. So they give me that push. And that would have been around 2011. So started kind of dabbling about with Shiner, started doing demos. And then Shane appears after 10 years. And it just, the timing couldn't have been more perfect. Now I look back, it was kind of weird. He'd sadly lost his dad, wanted me to drum on a track. Yeah. Then obviously I'd explained I'd lost my mum. So you can take what you want from that spiritually. But we kind of found ourselves there. He asked what we were up to. And the first song he picks out is Blink of an Eye. He's like, just, you know, let me kind of take this away, see what I got. I kind of fancy it. And I'm thinking as he left, and he knows this because we're so transparent, I'm like, yeah, nothing will come of that. And then all of a sudden he sends it over, and Lloyd was in a different band at that point. He'd just been kind of coming back and forth, still kind of interested. Oh, what are they doing by there? But I'm in this other band. Oh, what are they doing there? Oh, but I'm still in this other band. So Lloyd started coming more to the fold and getting more excited, which made it a me, Shiner, Lloyd. Then now all of a sudden we have a singer, because we tried a few and it was like, I was still like what I just said to you boys. I was like, nah, I'm done with music. This ain't working. And then when Shane sent it over, I was like, you bastard. I was like, maybe I'm not done with music. But I went through a real long patch then of like not wanting to admit what I had, which mentally, I'll be honest, it puts you in such a bad place where you don't want to kind of get too excited about what you have. So we started, obviously, you know, that's when I say the Crows became a band, when we started getting out there, we started recording Murder in the Motive. We were more of a band rather than me and Shiner just dabbling with demos and writing stuff in the house. It became more real, and Shane had a lot more passion for it. And I used to shit myself with that because we'd stay outside, man, till like fucking hell. I remember, I think one band practice, we finished band practice at 10 o'clock at night and we were still talking at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning outside the practice place.
Yeah.
And that's the truth, because it's almost like 10 years starting to catch up, and then fears and talking about fears and talking about, like I was saying to him, look, man, I've been in this position and you don't understand. And like Shane would have a completely different outlook on it, going, well, I do understand. And, you know, this is what I want. And I was like, oh, fuck, he's where I was, you know, 10 years ago. And I don't know if I'm that guy anymore, like, you know. Yeah. And then as time just kind of evolved, we realized that the sound wasn't working on stage. And I'd met Dave through Bridgend Tattoo. He'd come down to there. And I just knew of him. I hadn't seen him play, but I just knew he's a cool guy. And I just thought that's somebody, yet again, I would rather be around, is somebody who's, you know, not a fucking prima donna, not full of tantrums and stuff. So suggested him. He came to the fold, worked, and now we are those damn Crows. That's who the band is. But this year, I kind of had a bit of a truth serum. I'd been living like a proper lie for I don't know how long, of like balancing my tattoo shop. And it wasn't fair to the guys I was working with there, because I felt I'd done so much for the tattoo shop. Taking it in a completely different direction. It looks a million miles from what it was. But I had this passion, which was called music, which was just nibbling at my ankles constantly. And Shane was drawing more of that out of me, and drawing more of the ambitions of the past. And we get signed to Earache. And I remember sitting in my studio going to the boys, I don't care if we sign or not. I mean, Digby will hear this. And that was just me being honest. I was like, I don't care if we sign or not. I am happy. I don't need a record deal. We'll do it on our own if we have to. And I was almost fearful of signing with Earache at that point, because I was thinking, fuck, this could make it even more real now, because we're going to start working with a label. And I'm not stupid. I know like the work. Yeah, well, a lot of bands, man, and you boys will respect this. A lot of bands think, yeah, we got the record deal, we've made it. And then they get lazy, and that's it. And then they wonder why the label dropped them, and then they wonder why they had a music career back then. It's like, to me, when you get the record deal, the work starts again, because now you have to put even fucking more in. And I think you expect that from your bands, which is a great thing. Like, do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I mean, the worst thing is like exactly like you said, when bands sign and then they're sort of like, right, we can sit back now, the labels take over. But obviously, the bands that work the hardest do the best. It's simple formula. Bands that don't work hard generally aren't going to do very well. So you have to have that hard work ethic, and it definitely adds pressure when you sign to a label, because suddenly, you know, you've got another group of people going, you know, we need this album and it needs to be good, and we need you to tour this much, and we need you to make this video and all this, and suddenly it's not on your own watch anymore. You've got to, you know, collaborate with a team of people, so it can make it a lot more real and add pressure, like you say.
Well, yeah, and that definitely, I'm glad you said that, because that kind of shows you where my brain was. But I wasn't saying a lot of this to the boys. I was just in my head going, oh, fuck. Oh, no. So then time kind of went on and it was working. The relationship's amazing between us and the label. I'm not just saying it because of the podcast, but you know that. We're so open as a band with you guys, you know that. So the work seems to be going great and the snowball seems to be getting bigger, as you guys will know, and the machine is working and all of a sudden the band's getting real traction. And Shane has got even more belief now and he's quit his job. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Oh, no. this is not what I wanted. Like, I remember trying to talk him into it. I was like, don't quit your job. And he was like, you don't get it, but he's like, I have to quit my job because if I put 120% in this, I will get everything I want back. And if I don't, I know I've put everything into it, like, you know? And I'm thinking, oh, fuck, dude, I've been there. Oh, don't do this because this is what I used to do. And then I ended up, oh, no, you don't want to be where I was. And so all this is going on in my head. And anyway, he was right in a way because obviously, as you guys know, we went off to do like Bad Flowers tour. Then because of that, good shit happened. Then we ended up doing a Stone Broken tour. And even because we did that, even bigger shit happened. So yet again, that snowball is rolling and Ronnie's still owning a tattoo shop. And I'm thinking, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
And then I'm starting to think, well, you know, life is great for me because I own my own business. So if this band thing kind of goes under, it's fine because I got my own tattoo studio and everything's fucking great. And I start doing interviews, tattooing. And then I start saying this weird thing, man. And I've started looking back at him. I started going, I kind of fell into tattooing. And I think I've said it to Mike. I kind of fell into tattooing around 2011. I even wrote it on a fucking bio on the website for the tattoo studio. Right. I fell into tattooing. And the more I kept saying it, and I'd be in the van with the boys and Shane be like, what are you doing, bud? I'm like, oh, I'm just booking the boys some work, or I'm just doing posters for the shop, or I'm just doing this. And he'd be like, you with the band now, man? You fucking, can you whip this together? Can you do us some merch? Can you, and I'm thinking in my head, yeah, I'd rather be doing that, but I got to be doing this work for the shop because if I don't do it, no one else will do it. And so I'd be kind of working on the road then. And then the more time was going on, I was thinking, I fell into this tattoo shop. Not saying a word to my family. And then one day my wife just hit me with a reality stick of, she goes, you're fucking miserable. And I was like, what? And she was like, this ain't what you want. So I'm expecting now, and I swear to you both, I'm thinking she's going to kind of go, you don't want the band. You don't want, do you know what I mean?
She said,
and this is after the sold out tour.
Yeah.
This is after we get signed to Live Nation. She's like, you ain't happy? And I'm like, no, I ain't. And then she goes, it's the tattoo shop, innit? And I was like, yeah. And then obviously we had a massive talk about it. And that's when I made the decision to leave. So I don't own a tattoo shop. I left there March the 16th, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Left a lovely business to a great human. I think the world of Nipper, he knows that. But I couldn't battle with him. It wasn't fair to him. I had ambitions. I got to remember the guy that I kind of was friends with before the tattoo shop who didn't want to run a business. He didn't want to have responsibilities and stuff. And then all of a sudden I find myself saying to him nearly 10 years down the line, well, you need to step up now. You need to do this. You need to do that. I'm off doing the band thing. This is going to benefit you. And all of a sudden I could see his fright. So for the last, I think the last year, and this is probably an exclusive actually. I'd probably say the last year, 2 years, definitely me and him were like proper at each other's throat, bickering, because mentally I knew, well, I shouldn't have to give up the band thing. I shouldn't have to do that. But I knew he couldn't really handle running a tattoo shop as well. And I've had good friends say to me, why didn't you get a manager in? Why didn't you do this? It's not really it wasn't why I went into business with him. The whole point I went into business with him is me and him were going to kind of make that tattoo shop as big as it could be. And I just kind of knew that if I step away from it 100%, which yet again, a lot of people will say is fucking stupid, but in my mind, I could put Shane's theory of 120% into this band, which in a poetic way, the Crowcast wouldn't have happened. Us going away to a studio working on stuff wouldn't have happened during this COVID break. Going to Germany, I'm not saying they wouldn't have happened, but I wouldn't have been as switched on, as focused. Like Mike, Mike, how many fucking phone calls have we had, dude, in the last few months?
Like once every couple of days, once every 48 hours, pretty much speed dial at this point. Like, we've got a new project. Oh, we're doing this, doing that. Straight back in the studio.
Yeah.
More endeavors. Yeah. It's you're in a really good place now, safe to say. So much better off than, fortunate is probably the better word to use than all the other bands that are sort of over the last 6 months have just really suffered down to this. But you guys have managed to make the best of it and explore these new projects like the Crowcast and give it back to the fans, which they need something like this to keep them going. Your fan base is insane.
It's phenomenal.
I've never seen a fan base quite like your one, to be honest.
Well, our new manager is saying that, Mike. It's just like, no matter how much you feel that I feel like I'm leaning on them, or the band feel like they're leaning on them, they just give you 10 times more back anyway. Do you know what I mean? Even when we don't want to have support or money off them, for example, they're sending you personal messages saying, we want to fucking help you here. How can we help you? Because you won't take out bloody money, like, do you know what I mean? And we're like, nah, it's a hard time for everyone, man. You shouldn't have to put your hand in your pocket, you know. So you're right there, dude. There's not even the words to describe how thankful and how grateful I am for them supporting this project, supporting those damn Crows, for making it part of their life, for getting it tattooed on them, for getting artwork put in their houses, for Christmas decorations. Have you seen that online? If I can get Christmas decorations made for their trees, which we haven't even created as merch, because we're trying not to. All right, we're pretty close to being Kiss, but we haven't quite gone there yet with the everything branded, those damn Crows. But you're right, dude. I'm probably in the best part of my life now, which is like what I said to you guys at the beginning of the show. I feel I'm in the best part of my life because I'm so focused on drumming. I'm so focused on working like the band's career and my own, because by doing that, it makes me a better drummer. By doing the research, like we talked about earlier, boys, of like trying to do the software, taking all that info in, I would not have been able to do all of that. Like, I wouldn't be able to kind of, I'd say that to the two of you. You can't have too much going on at the same time, especially you guys know the score. A band is so hard on its own, like, so if you feel like you're scattering your projects or you've got too many things going on, you'll never 100% say to yourself, everything was on that. Do you know what I mean? Everything.
It's like a poker game, isn't it? And you're at the table, and rather than hedging your bets, you're going all in on the band. And I think fans see that and they go, right, that's a big leap of faith. And one thing I've noticed as well, especially since this lockdown, is, like you said, the support from rock fans who want to support bands, because it's a really hard time for everyone. Lots of bands are basically going to go out of existence during this lockdown because their only income was the live shows. So what I've noticed is loads of people want to support bands, whether that's buying a record or t-shirt, because they can't support them by going to see them live anymore. So it does make a big difference. And that thing of you going all in on the band, that's where the album title comes from, isn't it? Point of No Return.
Yeah, I mean, Shane foreseen the future before any of us, because Point of No Return was talked about ages before the record, as in, like, I think it was on the table for the first record, I think. I'm not sure if I got that fact 100%, but the point is, it was a record of relevance because he was going through so much personally.
Yeah.
I mean, the songs, they resonate so much as a friend. We're not even friends now, it's family, like, and they resonate so much for me, what he was going through, and they tell a story. And Point of No Return is almost where the band was. I mean, like, I think, like, ending towards that end of the tour, I've explained it to Shane, because when I left the tattoo shop, I phoned my wife and I said, because she said, look, have a think about it for a couple of weeks. I'm not trying to go backwards, but have a think about it for a couple of weeks. I went in, something triggered me off and just pissed me off. And I thought, I don't need to be here anymore. I don't want this. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, bump, I'm done. I'm done. I can't be doing with this head work anymore. I can't be doing with anything. Spoke to Nipper. Everything was grand. Everything was glorious. How do we move on? That's how we move on. For my wife, it's done. And she was like, wow. She's like, fucking hell, I thought you were going to leave her a couple of weeks. And I was like, I've been thinking about this for more than weeks. Like, this has been there before the tour, before this, before that. So that's it. As long as I got the family on side, I'm happy. And the first person I went to see, boys, was Shane. I rang him up. I said, are you there now? I went to his house, massive release. And like we hugged and stuff like that. And then he was like, fuck you, crazy bastard. And it was like, and I just seen where he had been. I'd seen the pressures that he had put on the, like you said, a poker table. He'd put him on that table. He'd left them there. He's gone all in. Yeah. And I just want him to know it ain't too late. I'm completely there with you. And we will fucking make this work now. And, you know, the other boys I feel sorry for on times now because they've got two people now completely like bitching, like, do you know what I mean? As in a good way, because we all love each other, but we're like, this has got to be fucking done. This has got to be done. And we expect so much. Do you know what I mean? So when we ring certain people up and they're like, yeah, well, you know, it's a pandemic and everything. We're like, no, I'm sorry. There's no fucking excuse. We could be doing this now. Yeah. Because we can't get it in our minds. If we're willing to work constantly throughout the night or to make things happen, why are you using COVID as an excuse when there's no need for it? Like, you know, so
you put it all on the line for this. So there's no half measures. You've got to, you know, it's got to work really, isn't it? So, I mean, what you were talking about before about, you know, everything that you've been through in the last few years and stuff and how that's gone into the record, you can really hear that, I think, because it is a really emotional album, isn't it? It's obviously, it's hard rock and it's hard hitting, but there's loads of emotion behind each song. And like you were saying before, Blink of an Eye, it's obviously about losing someone close to you. And I think that song resonates with loads of fans for that reason, doesn't it? I mean, I've heard people saying that, you know, I want this at my funeral and stuff like that. It's kind of, it really gets under the fan's skin, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I think Shane knew that, like when Blink of an Eye, like when it was demoed and stuff like that was the first song, like I said, he picked up. But he knew it was like, he just could tell. I remember saying to Shiner at the time, it won't even make a record, dude. Don't worry about it. Because I knew Shiner was like, oh, because everything else we were writing was more like, jun, jun, jun. You know what I mean? It all had a bit of a, and then all of a sudden there's this da-da-do, da-da-do, and I was like, oh, fuck, he ain't gonna like it. So it kind of got where it needed to go, and it served its journey. And me and Shane had a chat because the only thing it had was the hook line of Gone in a Blink of an Eye. That was the only thing it really had there. And I said to Shane, it was about, it's weird, man. Like I said, it's fucking so weird how he came into my life after so long. I was like, it's originally about friendships and how people change and how things change around you. I mean, How many places have you boys probably grown up now and it ain't there now, maybe? Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's like a cinema or a club.
With people as well, like, you know, 1 minute you're friends with them and then before you know it, 5-10 years go by and it's like, oh, I haven't spoken to them for 10 years now. And they're, you know, in a blink of an eye, they're gone, kind of thing. But
makes sense, doesn't it? It's perfect. Like, it's
another song on the record I wanted to ask you about. I think it's my favourite one, but Who Did It? It's like obviously a hard hitting song, but that's got quite a dark story behind it as well, hasn't it?
Massively. It's just Bridgend, dude. It's growing up around you, but I do kind of need to put a disclaimer on it of we are a small town. So, you know, before people say like, well, it's because we're a small town, so the numbers might seem massive. But when we grew up, we can only tell a story of our lives. So there's no statistics, or I never want to offend anybody. That's why I have to say that. We can only really share the story of we grew up. And even from school, walking into your assembly and hearing how your friends had taken their lives, then leaving school and college and your friends had they've taken their lives, to going on to real life, as we would say, and always hearing about people taking their lives. And I mean, I'm not talking one or two, and I'm not talking like one every year. This was like constant, boys. It was like, it was just like a really, really,
isn't it? It's one of the saddest things you can talk about.
It's incredible. I was I remember my old job, this would have been around 2001, 2002. I was working, with autism and Asperger's children. And I remember bumping into a mate. I hadn't seen him for years, and he'd split up with his girlfriend. And a week later, I hear that he's passed away. And that was how quick that happened. It was so weird. It was like a massive catch up. Hey, how's your brother? How's things going? Hey, how's this? How's that? And then a week later, I hear, oh, have you heard about such and such? What? Yeah, he what? Wow. But then part of you hears it and goes, wow, but you've heard so many stories before that. And then, you know, you've got other people and their family members would start doing it, or it was so close to home. There wasn't one person I didn't know, and I think now is the case, the friends or the circle I'm in, all of us have a connection or somebody we know has taken their life. And that's why like mental health is so important, because you didn't realize, you know, and there was like loads of conspiracies of like cults or some fucker like pouring a polluted smoke across Bridgend, and people were taking in smoke, and it was fucking mad, honestly, boys. It was like so much shit ones, and the cult one was the best. It was like they were, you know, they were sacrificing people, but
people just want an explanation for it, don't they? Because it is such a
yeah, and you're talking everything. I mean, there was points that, you know, there's a part of Bridgend where there's a fucking phone box at the bottom of the cliff, like, do you know what I mean? Because they reckon the tale is, and this isn't an urban myth or anything, it was a fucking truth apparently, is you know, but a lot of people would go down to the bottom to check out what they would land on, and there'd be a phone box there, Samaritan's phone box, to kind of to try as a last minute, you know, beam of light to help them through it, like, you know. So yeah, it was really, so when Shane did Who Did It, wow. Yet again, we all, because, you know, when you're creating, or you're all starting to jam in the room, or ideas or riffs start coming to the table, you know, I'm guilty of shouting a melody to Shane, and if it's good enough, he's got no thing. He will take that melody on. He's not like, oh no, I'm the singer. Sorry, I only sing my own melodies. He will happily, if you've got something better, he will bring it to the table. But Who Did It? Bang, he was straight off to the races, and then it was just a case of when the story came together, and it was just like, wow, there's so much through it. And I think we talked to you guys. I mean, we still talked about it now. I'd always loved to have done some sort of animation. I wouldn't have wanted to do it live, it's too dark, but some sort of animation storyboard to actually, and I still think there's a route there, because there's such a story behind it, and Shane's vision for the animations and to tell that story, because, you know, we had fucking press down here from everyone, boys, all the time. It'd just be like, everyone wanted your story. Everybody wanted to know what was going on. Who do you know? Funeral for a Friend wrote a song about it. It's just like, it's where we grew up, and I know it's quite a dark topic, but, you know, that's, and to me, it's like, I know it's the first song at the moment currently that we come out with, and that's thanks to Shane, because we were in download, I'm losing the years, last year, and we switched it last minute. We used to come out, we do Don't Give a Damn, and Shane just said, I think we should just open up with Who Did It? And I was like, oh, no one's heard it, dude. And I remember, like, our manager at the time, Roy, he was like, oh, I think that's a bad idea, because it worked so well when we did the RIP stage that Shane couldn't sleep the night before we played the Dogtooth stage, and said, I couldn't sleep, not through nerves. I just keep thinking we should open up with Who Did It? And we did. And it just fucking, the crowd just bounced to it. And it kind of, even though it's a dark, topical song, it's such a great song to open with for us, because it feels like we're 5 guys from the same place with the same story, and here it is, like. And Shane has made that happen, which I commend him for. Lyrically, he's made that happen. So it's almost like our first song hitting everybody is, this is who we are. We are those damn crows, as you know, with our intro. And then bang, we hit with Who Did It? And it's almost like, you know, we are from a small town that some people don't know. Like, you always have to explain. Kind of in between Cardiff and Swansea. that's where we are. So it's
I
like,
think that's it, because I'd never heard of this until we got into releasing that single. I'd never heard of the Bridgend suicide rate, and it being, it was the highest in the country, wasn't it, for a while?
yeah.
It's just a horrible, horrible story. But I mean, why do you think it was the case? Like, conspiracy theories aside, what was the reason for it?
I can't really pin it. Where we were as kids, there wasn't a lot of hope, and I think that's fair to say that. You are expected to do your best in school, go and get a good job, settle down, and die, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's literally it. Eat, sleep, and repeat. Like, do you know what I mean? Work for my bamp of him. He was a miner. Worked as a young age. Married, retired, and that was it. If he was lucky, he went on holiday to Puthcall or somewhere like that. It was just more small-minded kind of attitude and stuff. And I think it started happening more, or to our knowledge more, when we were in school and college. Kurt Cobain passed away 2014. Am I right there? 1994.
Oh yeah, I think it was 94.
94. We'll say it's 94. And I know that affected certain people because they took that option. They repeated, what he did. Like, do you get what I mean? So I think drugs was a lot to do with that, and breakups. You know what it's like. I mean, we're all kind of grown ups now, kind of. But you know that feeling when your girlfriend cheats on you, or things, or you feel embarrassed in school, or something bad or trivial.
Yeah, when you just
has happened.
No hope left, basically, like you said.
Yeah. No, imagine that now. That fucking scares me, that does, because I had some pretty fucking dodgy moments in school, as in, like, embarrassment or bad breakup, for example, or something like that. Now it's kind of like you got your Snapchats and your whatever. So,
Yeah.
there's possible videos or cyberbullying. But I can only really talk about our journey as like youngsters, and I just think it was more depression. There wasn't a great lot around. The music scene was hot if you were into music. The sports scene was great if you were into sport, but the opportunities weren't there. There was no academies. There was none of the options that's there now. None of these 3G pitches and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It was, so you kind of might have fallen into that, hanging on the streets, drinking in a bus shelter, or you took the Goonies route, which you were out in the fields building camps and fucking causing I don't know how many adventures. It was brilliant, like, but some people weren't as fortunate to that, or they might have fallen into like bad company, or especially like when you've left school and maybe you haven't done as well, and you start thinking this is my life. Like, do you get what I mean? And
yeah,
I think
it's hard, isn't it? I mean, I guess I don't know at all, but I guess part of it is, like you said before as well, it sort of becomes normalized and you become desensitized to it. So some people might not even consider that as an option when they're miserable. But I guess if you're in a town like Bridgend and it's going on all around you, it's going to make it more likely to happen. But
well, I where I live personally, because obviously you got Bridgend, if you imagine, is the centerpiece, and then how it works around us is there's valleys, which you might be aware of this. There's valleys. So Bridgend is a town, then there's like little villages, and they go up to valleys, which are in the mountains and stuff. I live in a valley. I decided to buy a house in a valley when I was younger. Number one, it was fucking cheap, and number two, it's just a bit more peaceful. I'm up in the mountains and stuff, but since I've lived up here, which is roughly about 14 years, you're surpassing, I'd say you're surpassing 50.
Yeah.
That's, that's info. And that's just up here now. That's just like of stories or ambulances, or you never believe it, he took his life, he did, or you found it, or you know what I mean? You are right, you do become a little bit desensitized by it, like, and it's still going on with like my children's age. It has decreased to my knowledge how it was, because I think at one point it was just multiple in a week. Like, do you know what I mean? There'd just be school kids to grown-ass adults, just all struggling, obviously, mentally, whether it was marriages breaking down or relationships as a child. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause that's what they are. They're children, like, you know. But yet again, how do I do the most dramatic kind of response to it? I'll do it, and then people will argue, well, go on then, go and do it then. And so I don't know if that kind of played a part of it. I haven't got a clue. I just know it was far more frequent than lately. I don't hear it as much, which is phenomenal and great. But then is it being kind of squashed down, or is it happening in other places and you don't really know of it? And I know we had a media blackout as well, which probably helped. Right. I think the media were told to royally fuck off, stop making this into a fucking film. Because what you're doing is you're taking the vulnerable and children or people who can't really get the help that they need at the time, and you're giving them an option, but you're giving them a status maybe. So yet again, these are only opinions and not to offend anybody, and yet again, like you said, a conspiracy in a way, because it's kind of like, is that what was happening? Was it being put under the spotlight, so it was people's way of, it was brought to the front of their head, well, I'll just do that because that's what you do, that's what everybody else is doing. Or if there was underlined problems, certainly weren't getting the help for many years. And like I say, you can't really put an age on it because it was happening from school to adults, you know. So there's no even pattern, boys, you know. It's not even, I can say to you, like, it was between 20 to 28, or there's like fucking children. I look at it as like, I've known people as young as 14, and then I've known people like 50, 60 years of age, and like literally they felt they had no other option.
It's horrible. I mean, especially if we bring it back to like today as well, and everything that's going on, it's a big worry, isn't it? Obviously, that with all the mental health issues that are going on, and it's important that people talk about it, really. And you know, it does get better if you are in that sort of situation, isn't it? Just hang on there and life gets better, especially if you're of a certain age. Like you said, you're young, you know, say you're 16 years old or whatever, and you're really depressed and you're thinking about doing something like that. You think, you know, you almost certainly haven't had your best day on earth yet because you're only 16. You almost certainly haven't been to your best gig yet. You haven't seen the best football match of your life. You know, you haven't done this. You haven't done. All your life is ahead of you. So just, you know, hang on and things can get better.
Yeah, that's you. Yeah, you can't add no more than that. That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect way of putting it, to be honest, Tom. That's, you know, you're too young. You're too young. I just think the problem is now there's a lot more pressures. There's a lot more celebrities and people getting, you know, physiques are changing. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot now. So I think it is more, where it was just Bridgend, for example, I think it's more spread out, especially mental health is such a big thing at the moment. And Shane taps into that a lot on Point of No Return, because I think everybody's a lot more aware of it. The pressures to get somewhere, the pressures to make something of your life. And like I said, you know, you get caught in this machine, man, and it's bizarre. Like, you know, I said to the wife the other day, you take out the fact, and I think you boys will be the same here, take out the fact we need fucking money. Like I said, go and print me some more. Go print me some more money. I need some more food for my kids because they can't help this situation. Go and print me some more money. I don't need fucking bundles of it. I don't need parcels to arrive every day or exotic holidays. You find your own entertainment, your own life. I've had such a laugh and such great moments during this period, because it's made you realize all the things you don't need in life, all the pressures, you know, whether it's your work or like I said, I give up my business and stuff like that. You take all that away and then you're stripped of everything. You see what you actually have. And if you can focus on those positive things, I'm just very fortunate, dude. You know, I've found that where, like you said, it's such a shame there's so many people who are younger who don't realize that's possible. I loved one of my old friends when I was growing up. He always said, you can change your life in an hour. You technically can. Yeah. It was just, I think in Wales at a certain period, they didn't realize that. People go, oh, fucking stuck in Wales. I'm stuck in Bridgend. Never leave Bridgend. I'm like, you guys ain't far. It's no trouble to me to get in a car and come and have a beer with you. But that's my mentality, and that's how life has changed. So Nottingham to me isn't far. Do you know what I mean? It's not far. I've come up to your gaff and gone home in a day, and people are like, whoa, you went to fucking Nottingham? I'm back in a day. Well, you didn't stay over. Nah, it's not worth it. It's only up a road, isn't it? And it's the same with Scotland. Sometimes we've drove up to Scotland, done a gig, and come home because the world's become smaller, man. So it's like the opportunities are grander. You get to meet more people. And I suppose if your life is that shit, start another one rather than end it. Do you know what I mean? And
just look out for one another as well, isn't it? That's it, because there'll be plenty of people on their own now who, are going to be on their own for the next month because of lockdown and things like this. And it's like, we're all in this together kind of thing. We've got to look after each other. I really need to piss, Ronnie. I'm going to go and piss because I've had like a litre of coffee. So
blimey.
I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
I know I had a jug going by here, like.
You good, Tom?
Yeah, all good. Feeling relieved. I filled up this coffee before the thing.
Yeah. That's the same as mine. Like, it's like a fucking cauldron.
Yeah.
So,
go on. You're going to say something, Mark?
Yeah. I was just going to say, well, do you? What advice would you give to bands in lockdown right now who are in a similar position to yourselves?
Be creative. I know that's really, really hard for some people to take that on board. But we achieved so much coming into lockdown, and we could have easily gone, oh, well, that's it now. We'll pack up our stuff and see everybody when it's over. And we didn't decide to do that. We become super creative. Now, the podcast, video cast, I've seen a lot of bands try it. It hasn't worked for them. That doesn't mean that you still go, we'll give it up now. It just didn't work for you. Do you know what I mean? So you tried it, didn't work for you. Think of something else. There is always songs to be written. There are always fans to interact with. That's what they're there. They want to be interacting with you. So you have to just get super creative. I mean, us as a band, when we were on lockdown in Wales at one point, travelled to fucking Stroud to do band practice, to do 3-hour band practice. We were going to Stroud because that was the only place at that time, which was close enough to home, that we could actually do a band practice. I mean, we dug deep. We went into the pot that we have. I think only once we've had a tip jar on the Crowcast. In 33 weeks, we've had once. But rather than going, hey, we ain't got no money individually, we just went, hey, I tell you what, we'll put all that back into the band, which is what the band decided. The boys decided. We didn't take the money individually and piss it up on Panda Pop or anything like that. We literally put that money back into the band. We found a studio in the back of nowhere and managed to go away for 3-4 days as a band and create something out of that session. Yet again, it's thinking outside the box. And, I know a lot of people might listen to this or watch it or whatever and go, yeah, well, it's easy for you, mate. You got a record label and you have an agent and you have this and you have that. No, we have all of that, and you guys work an amazing job, but there's a lot that's done from the band. And I think yet again, it kind of passes on what we said earlier. If you think that your job ends once you get a deal and once you get an agent and once you get this, you're not going to fucking have a career. I mean, I remember when we first met Digby and the band fell in love with him, and I didn't know he'd come to watch us play. I didn't know that. I didn't know he'd bought our record and he bought our merch and he'd sussed us out because he's a clever bugger. So I know he probably...
Wasn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, didn't know that. Didn't know.
Wagons, was it?
Yeah, so we're being us. We're being who we are. And I remember he wanted a CD. We were like, do you want that signed? I'm sure that's the story behind it. Do you want that signed? Yeah, whatever. They don't even know who the fuck I am, bro. You know what I mean? And I think somebody had made a point of getting Shane. And that's what we're like as a band, where all for the fans. He'd bought the CD. We assumed he wanted it signed. He probably didn't, and he laughed about it. But it was the fact of that attention brought that time. None of it was fake. It was all real. Like, do you get what I mean? It wasn't like, and that was genuine. I didn't know his face. I actually met Digby, which I didn't know this until somebody actually told me. I met Digby probably about 15 years ago in another band. And I didn't even know that I've met him before, and he probably don't even fucking know he met me. But we had met weirdly, but I can't really remember that moment. And if I can't remember, Digby's going to see if I can done it as well. So
What, was that over a record deal then for another band, or just a chat?
no, I was at a festival, and if I'm right, and it's the same guy, which it might be wrong, there might be twice I've met him. But he was going out with somebody that I kind of was working for at the time in a band, without not giving too much away, because you start saying certain things, and then he was going out with somebody who I was in contact with, somebody through a band, and if he was at the one place, she said, I was here with my boyfriend and he doesn't like many drummers, but he actually really liked you. He liked watching you play. So if it's him, that's amazing. If it wasn't, then I'll have to find the guy who said it. Secondly, there was an event in London, and I definitely know he was at that event with that person. And yet again, I just, it wouldn't have been like a, hey, and we hung out for hours and whatever. It would have been more of a gentleman's handshake, or a, hey, how are you doing? And this is this irrelevant Welsh drummer that, do you know what I mean? So,
no, I remember that gig in Nottingham. I remember it really well, because we obviously went there for Wagons, because I think we just signed them and they were headlining. I know about you at the time, and I remember, I think I was stood next to Dig at the gig, and he, after about halfway through the set, he's like, I'm signing these. These are fucking awesome. I'm going to sign them. And next day we were having a meeting, like, right, how do we get these signed, and things like that. So yeah, you obviously impressed that day.
Well, yeah, we had other people, like, at the time. We've said this on other shows and stuff. We had other people apparently interested, and apparently we met them. We actually met those, and we knew who they were at gigs. But the reason why we sang with Earache is because Digby was just so fucking passionate. I mean, nothing to do with money or contracts or anything like that. It was the fact of, we hadn't even seen, but when we came up to actually meet you guys, he's there with a t-shirt on, and he sold it, like, and if anything, and I don't know if Digby will remember the conversation, but we were out in the balcony. I've said this story, so it doesn't matter if he doesn't remember it. And I remember him saying, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. And he was telling all of you, whoever was sitting there, I think Lisa was out there. And he was saying, yeah, we need to do this for them, and this is where they're going to be. And Gary at the time, he was fucking pointing at him, telling him what he needs to be doing. And he said to me, you're going to be fucking massive, you are. And I was like, yeah. And he went, no, tell him. And he was like fucking telling everybody to tell me. I went, no, I said, you can only do what you can do, really, can't you? I said, you can't promise it. And I could see he was fucking, he was like, no, he doesn't get it. You're going to be massive. But I love that. That's what I mean. I loved his belief, his passion. And yet again, it's paying off. His saying to you in that gig, or that half a gig, going, I'm going to sign these, is, I'm glad that we did want to work with you and with his label and stuff like that, because it just kind of fitted. It was the right thing to do. It's the right thing for the band. Because if you've got somebody like that who has that belief, then anything is possible. If you've got somebody who's half invested, then you're a little bit in trouble there, like, So I'd say that to bands as well. Don't jump at a record deal, because I should maybe be saying this, sorry guys. Don't maybe jump at a record deal because it's a record deal, and oh my God, my life's going to change, and I'm going to give up my job, and I'm going to have a swimming pool and start smoking cigars, and it doesn't happen. Like, you have to, if anything, use the record label as a great machine to make your career prosper, and that's the best way to do it. You work the label works you, and together you're trying to kind of build this band and this brand to be the biggest it can possibly be, like, So yet again, don't get too dreamy and don't get too lazy, and especially during COVID, Mike. This is the time where labels are looking. I'd be looking if I was a label. You got fuck all else to do. You're like, you know what I mean? You're looking around now. It's like it's opportunity knocks, isn't it? You're like,
Yeah.
you know, looking around because you can start to look at bands and what are they actually doing? What are they doing through a pandemic? What are they doing? Oh, that's a good tune. Oh, well, you know what I mean? And then you start getting more excited. I don't know. I'm not giving anything away of what you guys are doing, but that makes sense to me. Or if I was a manager now, I'll take it off the label side of it. You kind of would start looking at maybe if you're looking to add to your roster or you're looking to kind of come out of this fucking bizarre world, you know, fully ready. You may be looking to add to your stable or an agent. It's a really horrible time for them as well. But yet again, they can kind of see who's trying to make an effort and stuff. So can't bitch and moan and say, well, you know, we've tried, we've contacted every agent. They don't want to know us. Contacted every manager. They don't want to know us. Record labels don't want to know us. Well, you got to create better content or change your fucking name.
Yeah. No, you're right. And from the band side of things, you know, you were talking then from label side and from manager side, but there are no gigs currently. So in theory, you should have more time to get down to doing more of this business stuff, reaching out to labels, making content and stuff like that. So you're absolutely right. But one thing I wanted to talk to you about as well was you're all quite into sport, aren't you? As those damn crows, you're all football fans. So
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what's it like being a Man United fan?
I gotta go a minute.
Because you got 2 Liverpool fans in the band. That's right.
Is this where I read out the script that says Ronnie does not have to answer these questions? This is off my solicitor. It's dreadful, Tom, and your posts are dreadful. It's all awful for my eyesight. I almost wanted to unfollow you. I wish you all non-success. It's awful being a Man United fan, seeing what Liverpool are achieving. It's awful. Even when you lost the other day, which I had great fucking, that's how bad of a Man United fan. I'm one of them, man, where I was like, yes, look at Liverpool being dogged. This is amazing.
I'm exactly the same on your side. When I just feel Man United fan miserable, and there's a lot of it at the moment to feast on.
And the thing is, I can't even explain why. And for anybody who would think like, he's just fucking glory hunter, he is. I actually supported Man United because they were just a random team that my old man didn't like. And I kind of, like, don't get me wrong, it sounds like I hate my old man, but I did always want to go the opposite way to my dad. If he did something, I'd be like, fuck that. And he was always like a Cloughie man. And my old man is a glory hunter. And I'll say that because he'll never listen to this in 94. Yeah. He's a fucking glory hunter. He's supported everyone from Nottingham Forest to Man City to fucking Liverpool to all of them. He's never supported Man United, let me add. But one day we were watching Match of the Day and I was a kid and I was like, who's that, Dad? And he was like, it's Nottingham Forest. It's Brian Clough, best manager on earth. I was like, all right. Who's the other team? And he went, Man United. All right. About 10 minutes in, he went, who do you support then? And I went, Man United. And that was it. So I've stuck with them. I've had the amazing years of obviously when we signed Cantona and all the glory years from Palace to your Scholes to fucking nothing now, innit? There's nobody. I can't even name Rashford, dude. I think he's good, but I don't think he's consistent. It's a horrible time for a Man United fan because you're smiling and Shane will love it when he hears this and Shina is just as bad. And every other Liverpool fan that I've known for 10, 20 years have all come out the woodwork and all constantly show me how great Liverpool are doing. So
I get accused of being a glory hunter as well, being a Liverpool fan. It's a similar story. You know, I had a family connection as a kid, didn't even know where Liverpool was as a city. You just adopt them, don't you? And then before you know it, that's it. You're a fan, you can't change. And I don't know, I won't speak for Shane and Shiner, but I think personally, like, there's been no glory for me, not up until recently. Like throughout the 90s and 2000s, there's very little glory. And I went to uni and lived in a flat with 8 guys, and I think 5 of them were Man United fans. And this was during the Roy Hodgson years as well, when we were getting like by Northampton at home and like in 17th in the table and stuff like this. So I've got so much bitterness up inside me, and it's a beautiful time to be alive.
Oh, brother. Well, I remember, and this is where it's going to come back at me, when we did the YouTube thing and I was smoking back then. which I haven't been for 2 years now, boys, this month. That's me on my high horse. But I remember kind of giving you a little bit of banter outside or something, like, "Ooh, freaking Liverpool fan," or how it comes back to bite you on the ass. Like, do you know what I mean? It's, it's getting, we're actually looking to start back up. We do a Crows football team. I think we've always mentioned this to you. We do a Crows football team, and I think we haven't been able to have the pitch due to COVID, but we're able to have it a week Sundays. So I'm really looking forward to getting back on the pitch with the boys and rolling around in my current state. But I'm not looking forward because half the fucking players who play are Liverpool fans. Right. And I just know every time I whip a ball in or any time I go to take a shot, it's going to be, "Oh, look at my idea." Yeah, so I'm not looking forward to that.
Like, there's no gigs anymore, obviously. But what do you make of like the Ryan Giggs stuff that's going on at the moment?
Fucking mental, man. Because if you've ever seen,
but he's obviously a bit of,
yeah. If you've ever seen on my socials, I'm a massive Welsh fan. I did the Euros. I did the whole 2 weeks. I toured around following Wales. Dark times when we lost that England game. Fucking dark times, honestly. Like, because
wasn't it?
Mate, the run we went on in that thing, and that's the only thing I keep bringing up, because that weren't us playing you, man. It was like, that's a credit to the English football team, and this is true now. This is football fan to football fan, because we went to shit. We give you far too much respect. If we would have played against you as if you were Belgium in our heads, or you were fucking Germany, Brazil, but we just went, "Oh, it's fucking England," and we literally give you too much respect, where I could see the players playing with more fear. Yeah. The game did mean so much to us because it's very patriotic and a lot of banter and stuff. Oh, fuck, but the aftermath of that, man, like, especially being out there. It was actually, my birthday was like literally a couple of days later, and I was like dancing around with English fans going, "You're shit, you're shit."
You went out to the actual tournament, did you?
Yeah, man, I spent the 2 weeks out there. The adventure never stopped, bro. It was like
further than England, didn't they? They did a lot better in that tournament. I still remember that Belgium quarter-final. Where was it? Who was it who scored that goal where he turned both the defenders?
Robson Carnell.
Yeah, that's the one. That goal's like etched in my mind. Because we were in Wales at that point. Because England.
I was there in the corner, bro, when he did that. So I watched the whole movement. It was just like, fuck. Do you know what I mean? And my best mate at the time, well, he's still my best mate now, Shed. Me and him, he hooked the whole tournament up. We went out there. We bought the group stage tickets, and we were like, "Oh, look, we'll get a tournament pass. If it happens, it happens. But let's be honest, we'll probably come out to the group stage. That'll be it. You know, when we've managed to see Wales. You've got to think, Wales have never been to a competition. So all my life I've been waiting for this since 1994." When we missed the fucking penalty, and the result would have gone our way against Romania. Right. And that would have meant we would have done, it would have been before 1994, because we would have done the American World Cup. And I remember saying to my dad before that, if Wales win, because he's an England fan, by the way, I don't know how that works when he's fucking Welsh, but there we go. That's another thing with my dad. I remember him saying, "I don't know why you're going to see that bag of shit in the Old Arms Park." And I said, "Hey, Dad, we're gonna qualify and we're gonna do the World Cup." And I said, "If we do the World Cup, can I go to America?" And he went, "Yeah, I can safely say that, because we'll never enter a competition." Yeah. So to get to the Euros, I was so emotional. I remember when we that first national anthem came on, and you can still watch it now on YouTube, and it was so loud. Yeah. The goosebumps. Even when we did the England match, man, it was like, you couldn't compete with it. It was just like, it was so fucking, this is it. This is our tournament, like, you know. So to lose that game then, and then obviously I had to spend a couple of days kind of fucking suffering, and then we had the bounce back. And you're right, when we did the Belgium match, well, we all thought that we'd go out in the Northern Ireland match because it was so close and it was so intense. And then when we went through, it was like, fuck it, here we go. And then obviously, we'll play Belgium. they're an amazing team. Let's be honest. Any footy fan who follows international football as well, Belgium, God, how they haven't achieved anything is incredible with that squad, man. It's like,
well, they're supposedly the best team in the world, aren't they, by the FIFA rankings or something? I don't quite know how they work that out, but yeah, they've got a lot of players. I remember a great thing about that tournament was I think it was Dean Saunders on Match of the Day, and I think it was when Wales qualified from the group, and he sort of goes, "Oh, I only put my car in the short stay car park in Wales. Didn't be here that long." He had to like his missus and get her to go buy another ticket or something, which was great.
Yeah, man. Well, that was our journey. We were driving around France, me and Shed, like driving around France, constantly listening to Talk Sport. And like bashing Adrian Durham and stuff like that, because they'd be like, oh, fucking Dog and Duck are playing tomorrow and they're doing all right. Like, and then, like I said, that when we went to Belgium, actually, and here's the mad thing. I think when we did the Belgium match, that would have been me, Shed, and actually Ryan Richards, who came out with us, because he managed to blag the most extreme amount for a ticket. But thinking like, you know, when are we ever going to get the quarterfinals ever again? So this will be it. And then obviously when we won that match, then it was like, fuck, this is real. We could go to the final, yeah. And I had a ticket ready for the final. Because I had the tournament ticket. I was like, oh my God. So this was costing me so much going further throughout it, which I didn't plan for, but it was yet one of the best experiences of my life. Like, it was phenomenal. And the Portugal game, well, we came home after the Belgium game and we decided to do one of these fly-ins and watch the match. Because we've been driving and obviously busy schedules, like 10-hour drives, some of them, man. We were like driving from one camp to the other side of France, setting up camp there or whatever we were doing. We went into Brussels for my birthday because I had the chance to I was going to go and watch Bullet. The boys said, come along, we're playing Hellfest, you're in fucking France, come along. But I kind of didn't hear anything for a couple of days, and I'm there thinking, do I go to Hellfest? But I haven't heard off him, and I don't want to hassle him. And then my buddy turned around and said, well, you love Belgium, which I do. He was like, let's go over there. You can have your chips, have your Jupla. I was like, all right, wicked. And then I get over there, and Bullet were like, are you coming to Hellfest? I was like, oh, fuck. And little did I know, when I was just leaving Belgium, they were like, oh, we're playing Grass Pop. I was like, oh, fuck. So the experiences, man, I could tell you both about 10 hours worth of stories, but the last game, that Portugal game, I was so drunk. I mean, like, I've got videos that I haven't put up yet that I keep saying I should put them up. There's like a 2-foot wall that takes me so long to try and get over this 2-foot wall. Because I ended up going over on a plane with Shed. We met Ryan Richards and Matt Tuck from Bullet, because Matt wanted to come to that game and stuff. So we met them. We get to the place at like, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning. We're on the beer straight away. It's lads, and all of that. And then it all becomes vivid because Tucker thinks he's on tour with the band, obviously. And he starts bringing out the Jägermeister at like fucking 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're down in Jägermeister on top of beer breakfast. Forgot that none of us have eaten. So there's a beautiful photo where you can see me and Ryan hanging off the bench. And then we finally get to the match, which I can't tell you how I got because I passed out on the bus. And then we get to the match, and then I remember just sitting there, and I was just like, fucking hell, we're playing. It's just like sweating from the heat and like dehydration and stuff. Like, so yeah, it was brilliant. I know we went out and Ronaldo, like, he finished that off, which is mad as a Man United fan, you know, loving Ronaldo. But I'd never swap that experience. It was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Well, hopefully they'll qualify for next summer. And hopefully next summer actually happens as well, because it's always good in the tournament. I mean, I hate watching England. Honestly, I hate it. So it's good having a sort of second team ready to jump on. And Wales would be one of them. If Scotland qualify as well, I'll be backing them.
Well, through all the banter, dude, I mean, I grew up as a kid. I watched all the suffering that you did. I mean, I've seen your Stuart Pearce penalty being missed. I was there. Like, I was there as a kid watching Stuart Pearce miss that penalty. Because my dad, like I said, whether, you know, you were any fan, you were watching that. That was the big thing back then. You know, the World Cup. There wasn't as many channels. It was a massive thing, like either on ITV or BBC, or probably both, actually, thinking about it. So I've seen those Roger Miller dancing in like, I think that was World Cup, whatever, and Gary Lineker crying, and you know what I mean? So they're my memories as a Italian 90, World Cup 94. So yeah, to experience Wales being at a tournament was phenomenal. I was actually not looking forward to this year. I did start, there's one person who sussed it. They asked, why do I put a Welsh flag, but it doesn't look like a Welsh flag across my two toms? Why did I do it throughout the tour?
Yeah.
And what it was, like, it was actually the Welsh football flag. So I actually stemmed it across the two. And the whole reason I did that from January was because of the Euros coming up. And it was the whole lead up to the Euros. So it was kind of a tip of the hat to the Welsh team. And that was my whole plan for that, or for 2020, like I said, was to, you know what I mean? Just to kind of like, yay, come on the boys. But I weren't looking forward to it because it was scattered this year. It was everywhere. So
it was the worst year to try and do it in loads of different countries, wasn't it? When obviously all this COVID stuff happened, and it's like, hang on, we're not doing it in this just one country anymore. We're going to do it in like 5 or 6, 7 countries all over Europe. So
well, I was due to play a gig up in, I know it was for Wyatt Wendell's, wherever that gig was. I know he was something to do with the gig. So it was up north, and I was due to do a gig there. My boy and my best mate yet again was coming up with me, or I was going to meet them in Manchester Airport, and we were flying out straight away after the gig, and I was going to be going to Italy to watch Wales play in Rome. That's how I was planning my football schedule around like band life, like, do you get what I mean? So that's how dedicated I was to it. I was like, fuck, am I missing a Welsh match if I can get there? Like, do you know what I mean? So,
what do you make of the Ryan Giggs situation at the moment? Because he's been banned from managing, or he's been dropped from managing the Wales national team, hasn't he? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I am one of those who used to go and watch Wales play in front of like a couple of thousand people with Gary Speed, so I'm a purist, and I've been through the whole Toshak and stuff. But when we had Coleman, Giggs has had a lot to prove as our manager, because it's not just about winning tournaments. With England, there's a real pressure for you guys to win at a tournament. That's your pressure. Ours is just to fucking turn up at one. Do you know what I mean? That's the comparison between the two nations. But what Coleman achieved, Giggs came in and already had an uphill battle. There's a lot of Welsh fans who don't forget when he didn't turn up for a lot of games when he was a player.
Over Wales, didn't he? Or Fergie.
Yeah, so I know I've drawn there because he was a phenomenal Man United player. I don't think he wouldn't be one of my favourite players for Wales, because he didn't really do a lot that I seen. He didn't do like what Gareth Bale would have done. He weren't as thing as a lot of the players of the past. Like, you know, even fucking Vinnie Jones turned up and he was like, fucking, I am Welsh now. I'm fucking Welsh, mate. You know? It's like, okay, then, you know, no one's going to argue with you, or you butt them out. Like, but there we go. But yeah, it was, my opinion on it is just, I don't know whether he will be our manager moving forward. It's too early for me to even be invested in the fact of giving a fuck. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's all respect for Ryan Giggs, because as a Man United player, my opinion is he is a legend. He deserves that thing. But if he's guilty of what he done, then he's a dickhead and he deserves a slap. So until the full story comes out, nobody knows. But I think I would speak for the Red Wall or the Welsh fans. He hasn't really done enough for us to be upset of losing him. If it was Coleman, then we'd all be like, fucking hell, man. That's, you know, I was gutted when Coleman went, because I felt, some fans felt that he'd done as much as he could, but I don't know, did he want to rebuild again? So I understand that. Maybe he felt he achieved everything he could possibly do with Wales. So there was kind of a respect yet again there of, okay, he's gone. There was loads of names kind of thrown around. I remember when Giggs was kind of there, especially my best mate. He was like, oh, fuck anyone but Giggs. So there wasn't a great hope for him straight away. Like,
Coleman was a really likeable bloke anyway, wasn't he? Like, you sort of back him because he just seems like a good pint. Like, I felt like that anyway. But
yeah, and I think that's what you need, especially as like as a Welsh manager, you need that connection. It's weird. It's like the fans, man. It's honestly, if you don't like, if we tell you to clap your fucking hands and the manager don't clap his hands, you'll get booed.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. Like, do you know what I mean? It's so it's kind of like you've got to have that banter, that rapport with your fans, and you just got to see that you're there to do the job, even if you can't get it done or piss poor football is being played. And I've seen so bad football being played with Wales. It's fucking astonishing, like, you know. But then I've seen absolutely incredible moments, which you might have seen, where we played Russia. And I was in Toulouse at the time. It was boiling hot. And I remember my mate turning around and going, if Volk scores, I'm fucking taking my top off. And like literally back in hell, boom, tops come off. And next thing you know, it's just amazing moments like that, like, you know, and the way we were passing the ball around, it was as if, you know, it was like watching Brazil. That's what we were singing. Like, it was amazing moments like that of that last group game. And you think, along with all the trouble that surrounded it with the Russian, I can't think what they were calling themselves now. The fighting and everything.
Oh yeah, loads of ultras came over to Marseille.
Ultras.
Yeah, I remember seeing it on the news. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were hearing all the stories, you know, they're all UFC fighters. They're all like fucking Dolph Lundgren, ready to bust your balls, like, you know. So it was like really nervy going in there. But yet again, a couple of beers, soaked in the atmosphere, and it was just phenomenal. And just watching the way they played. So yet again, that's Coleman. You know, Gary Speed still gets a clap even today, when we get to the minutes, like, you know, it's he even still gets the acknowledgement because he built that team. He started kind of paving the way for it, like, you know, and then Coleman obviously adapted and then took it to his way, and then obviously the whole five at the back and the vibe, and, you know, so yeah, brilliant. You can tell I love
they're a good team to watch. Like, we'll let you go in a minute, Ronnie, because I know we've been going on for ages, but what can we talk about, like, new music wise? Because you got stuff coming, right, for Crows? There's something in the works.
Am I allowed to say, Mike?
Well, I don't know. I guess we.
Yes. We got. Yeah, we have. I won't give too much away what's happening, but we have got. Like you said, what do you do through COVID? You're right. I think straight away, at first it was a bit weird. We couldn't get in the vibe. I think anybody who watches the first 4 or 5 episodes of the Crowcast, you'll hear us. We were talking about it transparent. Like, it's just really weird. We didn't know how to settle into it. Do you know what I mean? We were trying to be really proactive. So you'd sit there like that and you're like, right, today I'm going to write the song. No, I'm not.
Can you really?
Yeah, I achieve more by like going downstairs and making a meringue, or learning how to make crunchy. It was just like little things like that. And then me and Shane started speaking at like stupid o'clock until about 4 or 5 in the morning, laughing. Then we started having drinks with like the boys from Steelhouse. And then all of a sudden you settle into like a really nice pattern and the creative juices start flowing. And Shane sent over something straight away. We were like, oh, wicked, this is a great vibe. So we recorded that, started demoing it. Then later on during the process, it was like, do you know what? Let's just fuck off for a couple of days and let's go to the studio. And something did come away from it. We had a few roughs, and now we've been tweaking them. So there's quite a few tracks, and I think like we've sent one over now, which we think is the leader at the current vibe. Yeah. And hopefully we'll look to record that and do something magical with that now, like, you know. So yeah, definitely a creative camp, like I said, and that's without the other 3 or 4 that's there in the background that are currently just having tweaks made to them. And then we were in practice the other day, man, and we like, it won't matter if I say this because it's not really spoiling anything, but we're not afraid to try anything now. That's the best way to explain it. So we didn't really worry where the song was going. And all of a sudden there was these really super dark, heavy moments, and then all of a sudden there was like blistering light coming through it, like, so there was just a new vibe, but it still sounded Crows. So I don't want anybody thinking, oh my god, they're gonna go off and do a fucking space rock record or something, but it just sounded very cool. I think the giveaway it had elements of like Mastodon, it had elements of Soundgarden, it had elements of Queens of Stone Age, it had elements, there was just so much you could kind of put into this pot that we were like, wow, that sounds like super dark, but yet it was really fucking intense and stuff. So it's interesting. It's given us the time to kind of, yet again, how do we evolve as a band? How do we take it to the next stage? And we've already started talking about maybe working with more like string arrangements, maybe working with programming samples, whatever. How do you just keep writing the best tunes that you can, like, you know? And I think that's what bands can't be afraid of. As long as you know who you are as a band and you're enjoying what you're creating. I have learned this from being in the Crows, of remove the glass ceiling, which prior to the band I was never knew there would be one, but weirdly when we started the Crows, one appeared, and I think I was personally as well afraid of like becoming fucking, you know, are we going to go more down a metal or are we going to go more down there? And I think it's just having belief in your other members, knowing that they know the Crows are and what they sound like. People say it to us now, like I said to you earlier, we don't really fit here, but we don't really fit there. But that's what makes us a little bit different to like your Wagons, to your Stone Brokens, to your other bands in our vibe, because we're doing what we do. And there's an element of 90s to it. There's an element of throwback. There's an energy to it. There's a then there's touches then of the newer bands, of your Alter Bridges, your Shine'Downs, your, you know what I mean? There's so much within a record. And then Shane comes out with a piano track like Never Win, and everyone's like, fuck, you know, what's that like? And I think that's not being afraid to kind of throw the dice, you know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly. And the stuff about adding strings and things like that, that's exciting to me, because that just always makes things sound more bigger and grander, don't they? And it's something to look forward to for all the Crows fans out there watching.
Well, a personal goal for me, and we have said it on Crowcasts before, and I've mentioned it to Mike and management and stuff like that, is we'd love to do like an evening at the Albert Hall. That would be incredible, because it's very like Metallica-esque.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want people to think, oh, well, it's just, you know, I know Ghost did something similar there not so long ago, and I respect them more and more now, especially through lockdown. I've been kind of seeing what they do, and I get the whole dramatics and the theatrical side of Ghost, which is amazing. And I think that's what we look at as a band, without the gimmick they have, without the costumes and stuff, is how can we make this a atmosphere? How can we make this different to a Crow show that we would play in the tram shed, or whether we start getting arena followings and we start going into stadiums? How can we make this monster bigger, like, you know? And I think the bands are kind of, yet again, like, I don't want to be guilty of it, of having that glass ceiling. How can you play a stadium without thinking outside the box? The Foos are not afraid to do it. They'll do something and people will be like, oh, it's fucking terrible. But they've got to evolve from the color and the shape. Do you know what I mean? They have to. And same with Metallica. Oh, fucking, that album is fucking... It's like, well, what are they supposed to do? Just like Masters of Puppets for fucking 40 years? Like, do you know what I mean?
To be big, you got to think big, haven't you? And like you said before, you're all in on this. So, you know, why not give it everything you got? But
yeah, we would love that, to collaborate with, you know, other musicians, other fucking, like, you know, as an orchestra or anything. So I just think anything's at play at the moment, and the band's in a really, really great place. We have a great working relationship with Earache. We have a new manager on board, so that's exciting. So it's a completely different direction. Nothing wrong with the previous manager. It's just obviously with the times that we're living in, he felt his priorities had to kind of lie personally and with his business and stuff like that. And then we had a few people contact us out of nowhere, and then we hadn't even put it out there, to be honest. It's not even on the socials to this day, but we currently have a new management, and with that becomes like having a new member in the band, if that makes sense, of a little bit of excitement, because he has different ideas. He has completely different visions and how to kind of operate with the band and stuff we haven't thought of, or even stuff we have thought of how to maybe do it slightly better or slightly different. And that's what we wanted. You know, we're great at coming up with things, but how can you make it better? Don't just settle for what we've just said. How can you make that actually better than what we've come up with?
I said new manager, like fresh voice, fresh opinion, it can really help things, can't it? Like just give you a new perspective on things.
Yeah, he's definitely laying the foundations of what I said earlier of none of us know when we're going to come out of this scenario. It is what it is, but he's thinking ahead, and that's what we love. We don't want somebody just thinking of today or the next week or a couple of months down the line. We want to be thinking 2 years, 3 years, and that's where we have a manager who's doing that, which is great. Like, you know, and the phenomenal thing is like he has come up throughout this conversation of, you know, I went to footy games with him years ago, as I said, Ryan Richards, and then he was a guest on the Crowcast. And to be honest with you, not even a thought of him even managing us. Yet of his success and everything he's achieved throughout his career, there was no real thought of we'll work with him, because we were happy with our previous manager who discovered us as well and kind of got us for where we were at that point and understood where we wanted to get to. So just the timing couldn't be perfect with Ryan, of knowing his history, which is kind of a pun because that's a part of his name of his thing, but knowing his history and where he's been, who he's worked with, who he's worked under, and then bringing that knowledge to the table and exciting ideas that maybe we haven't thought of, or taking something we're suggesting now and getting really excited with that and expanding them. Who knows what's gonna entail now, like, you know. So we were pretty proactive before, as you know.
Yeah.
So you add more fuel to that fire and it's just gonna fucking roll, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
that's it. You're in a good place as a band, and let's just hope that all this shit blows over sooner rather than later. We can get back to watching you on stage in real life again. But yeah, thanks for doing the podcast, Ronnie. It's been good.
Yeah.
Thank you, boys. Thank you very much. And I wish you all the best with it as well, man.
Yeah, I might come to you with a few tips and stuff, because you're the experts now. This is only episode 3. You're on 33, so.
I know, Jesus Christ. We'll get you on the Crowcast, man, so don't worry about it. That'd be brilliant.
Cool. Well, nice, mate. Yeah, it's been good chatting. And
okay, cheers.
Take it easy, mate.
See you soon.
Bye.